to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, welcome to the big show. Happy Thursday.
Crudy, happy Thursday. Always a pleasure, my friend.
I got a new theory. You want to hear it?
Sure, man. I love theories.
My theory is Donald Trump's new plan to stave off impeachment is to commit an impeachable offense each and every day.
They'll never be able to document them all.
Well, he's moving so rapidly, and the outrage at the bar. He just moves the bar of impeachment forward each and every day, Dom. It's almost like he's self-impeaching.
Yeah. I've heard that term somewhere before.
Now, today, he went out and said more troubling things. And you know what's troubling? Because I saw Jim Jordan, you know, the guy, former Badger, Ohio State, let his athletes get molested guy.
Oh, that guy, yeah. The Trump sycophant. Yes, I remember that one. There's many of them, but he is one of the big ones.
He came out in the on the Hill, came out to the press, and mid-press conference, mid-impromptu press conference, someone said, "Did you see what the president said on the South Lawn? And do you agree with it?"
Right.
And Jim Jordan effectively said, "No, I haven't. We're done here," and walked away from the microphones. And Dom, he was probably prudent to do so. You know, you got to at least catch your breath. This one, for the Republicans, has to be a fresh body blow, kidney punch. I mean, it's got to hurt. How do you stand there and publicly defend this man? I know Ron Johnson did it yesterday, and Jim Jordan did it up to a point today, Dom. But he's becoming nearly indefensible. He went and frickin' invited foreign countries to collude in the American election again for his benefit today, and he did it on camera. The only plausible explanation, his plan is to commit an impeachable offense each and every day. It's just too much. It's too much. It's too much malfeasance. We can't keep up.
Catch me if you can. Aaron Blake from the Washington Post summarizes it. Then we'll get to some of the sound. Crudy. President Trump on Thursday appealed to a foreign country to take action involving his electoral opponents. It was the third time we know of that he has done so. The first time when Trump asked Russia to find Hillary Clinton's missing emails. Remember that one, Crudy?
I do.
Hey, Russia, if you're listening, remember that?
Yeah, that's the very day, my understanding, that Hillary's emails were hacked. The very day the Russian hacker started. Or maybe it was some 400-pound guy on his couch.
Well, you know, Crudy, that's just how the New Yorkers talk. At that time, as Blake writes, his campaign insisted he was joking. The second time, when Trump asked Ukraine's president to launch two other politically convenient investigations, we learned about it only after the administration tried to keep it under wraps. And now, for the third act, this one involving China, Trump just came out and said it. This might be Trump's most problematic request of this sort for a number of reasons. Trump on Thursday publicly said China should launch an investigation into Hunter Biden's work in the country. And we have some sound of that. And he later brought, let's just get to the sound. So, yes, go ahead, Crudy.
Oh, momentarily. I think you mispronounced the word. It's China.
Oh, China. Yes, China. So, Trump's third time going for three strikes and you're out. Republicans, I mean, how many times are you going to allow this, or are you entirely endorsing it? Some of these may be redundant. We want to make sure we get them all out there. We'll start with cut number 10, if you would, please. Fancy Brian.
China should start an investigation into the Bidens, because what happened in China is just about as bad as what happened with Ukraine. So I would say that President Zelensky, if it were me, I would recommend that they start an investigation into the Bidens.
Is that not stunning? Should we not be somehow just stunned as Americans? History playing out on the South Lawn as such, Dom. Shouldn't we be a little stunned? And I mean, I know we've been a little anti-Trump, a skosh. But shouldn't this be stunning to all Americans?
If there is illegalities alleged, and if the allegations are valid, and there is probable cause, then if there's going to be any investigation, shouldn't it originate here in this country under our laws? Why would you go out and ask our biggest economic rival to do something like this? And what? And is he also dangling this tariff war? I mean, this is also in the context of a tariff war right now.
Well, if you want the tariff war to end, I'm going to need a little favor from you.
Right, and I literally heard...
I'm going to need you to go investigate Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and maybe find Hillary's emails.
Listening to some of the Fox News on this today, they were seemingly encouraged by this, thinking that this was something, given the animosity of the tariff war, the trade war, something that could bring these leaders together. I mean, they were openly contemplating this as a good thing. Well, of course they were. Let's get some more out there. Cut 11.
They should investigate the Bidens, because how does a company that's newly formed, and all these companies, if you look at, and by the way, likewise, China should start an investigation into the Bidens.
All right, let's do 12.
Nobody has any doubt that they weren't crooked. That was a crooked deal, 100%. He had no knowledge of energy, didn't know the first thing about it. All of a sudden, he's getting $50,000 a month, plus a lot of other things. Nobody has any doubt.
Buddy, apparently Donald Trump didn't even know how to run casinos, because he ran those into the bankruptcy court more than once. I find it quite ironic that Trump's, this unqualified businessman. You have made a whole career out of being an unqualified businessman.
Yeah, but he's president. Cut 13.
I haven't, but it's certainly something we can start thinking about, because I'm sure that President Xi does not like being under that kind of scrutiny, where billions of dollars is taken out of his country by a guy that just got kicked out of the Navy. He got kicked out of the Navy. All of a sudden, he's getting billions of dollars. You know what they call that? They call that a payoff.
And let's do one more. Trump today, cut 14.
China, for so many years, has had a sweetheart deal where China rips off the USA, because they deal like people with Biden, where they give the son $1.5 billion. And that's probably why China has such a sweetheart deal, that for so many years they've been ripping off our country.
Repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Ask foreign government for help investigating your political rivals is now the standard operating procedure of this administration.
Well, there you go, Dom. Abuse of power on the tape once again. Publicly this time. We don't have to wait for a whistleblower or a transcript or to hear the Republicans defend it as some sort of a joke. It's just, just Trump being Trump. Well, what is this today, if not an impeachable offense, Dom? I mean, I think he's done it again. I think today, taken in and of itself, this set of asks, I mean, it's damn near impeachable in and of itself. Perhaps he dropped the quid pro quo today. But, the backstop of both these circumstances, I mean, the one guy just got his $400 million, and the other country he references, the one he wants to investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, we're in the midst of a tariff war with.
Right.
And he's, I would say, mixing his own, personal politics with what is in the best interest of our respective nations. And he's doing it for his own self-enrichment, which I would say is a clear-cut abuse of power, Dom. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And even Judge Napolitano, the Foxy News legal analyst, Judge Napolitano agrees with me, says it's clear-cut criminality, and that's before he did it on television.
Again, Aaron Blake says this. He quotes Trump, and here's what Trump said. I have a lot of options on China, but if they don't do what we want, we have tremendous power, Trump said. 30 seconds later, he was talking about the investigations. If you're China, you have to wonder if those things might be related. In Trump's mind, Blake writes. Where this could lead to an even stickier situation, though, is if there is a trade war resolution before the 2020 election. Some Trump advisors have urged him to come to some kind of deal by then for fear of the gambit backfiring in the November election. Let's consider for a moment that China investigates the Bidens and we learn about it, and then Trump cuts some deal with China. How would we ever know that a very personal political favor wasn't a factor in Trump giving China a deal with more favorable terms than he might have otherwise? Blake writes, there's a whole lot of ifs built into that. We don't even know whether China would be willing to play ball, as the Ukraine whistleblower put it. And for what it's worth, we have not seen signs that Ukraine has actually given Trump what he wants, but that's the unholy setup. And even if you set aside the trade war, this is still a U.S. president suggesting that a foreign country do something that is transparently geared toward his own re-election bid. Trump has intermittently argued, however implausibly, that his effort to get Ukraine to launch investigations is about rooting out corruption in that country. His now public request of another investigation involving the Bidens makes clear what this Crudy is really about. Republicans have been somewhat muted about condemning Trump's request of Ukraine. And for their troubles, they have now got him very publicly doing the kind of thing they would formally condemn at the drop of a hat, and complicating a trade war in the process. There's a reason Trump insisted he was joking about Russia, if you're listening. Even then, that was considered beyond the pale. Not so much anymore. Aaron Blake, The Washington Post.
Burning down the house, Dom. At least he's not, playing the violin while Washington burns.
He has no musical skills. Of course he's not.
You don't know that.
I do know that. I do know that. He doesn't love animals, and he has no musical skills.
There are so many breaking news stories on this impeachment. I don't know if Trump will make it to the end of the month. Another public impeachable offense, I would say arguably impeachable, and Volker. You remember Volker, the guy that resigned last week? Well, he's giving closed-door testimony this week, and in part it's leaking out, especially the part about Giuliani and the discredited information, the conspiracy theories being spun by Giuliani to justify these investigations.
He got it off the internet. It must be true.
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789. More Devils on the other side.
Russia, if you're listening, it's not like it's complicated. It's very simple.
He's for China and I'm for the USA, and it's very simple. Everybody watching can really be very proud of what's taken place. For China.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on WRRD 1510 AM. Weekdays, hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Jocasta Zamaripa, Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at newstalk1510am.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators. We've officially moved into our new space off Pleasant View Road in Middleton, and we're excited to announce that Madison Liquidators is now Dane County's premier dealer for Groupe Lacoste. In addition to their unbeatable 25-year warranty, Groupe Lacoste has 10 lines to choose from, ranging from traditional to ultra-modern, all available in 18 different finishes. Give me a call and let's make a plan for your space, or go online to madisonliquidators.com and shop our complete inventory of used office furniture.
The man's a menace.
And We are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and on Facebook, on Twitter, and on the phones. Toll free, talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, why aren't you doing the flash dance song?
We'll get there. We'll get there, Crudy. There is a point to all of this.
Oh, there is. You do tell. Do tell. What is the point
let's
Maniac?
Slowly get to it. Trump, we heard earlier today, once again, proving that he is not worthy of the office of the presidency, asking China for help on investigating the Bidens. He was on his way to China to talk about Medicare. We have some sound of that, and we'll get to the phone calls as well. Let's get to sound here now. Trump governing, Crudy. I know we've been critical. He's all, this is all just putting out the biggest fire first, but no, there is some governance going on. Maybe Trump on Medicare 51.
Almost every major Democrat in Washington has backed a massive government health care takeover that would totally obliterate Medicare.
So, buddy, he wants to preemptively destroy Medicare to make it a less appealing option, Medicare for all. So effectively, this is a political move as well. All he's trying to do is undermine the candidacies of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders.
And it's so disingenuous because, of course, obliterate Medicare. I mean, you're not obliterating something if you're expanding it and making it available for everybody. But let's continue on the Trump Sound 52.
Today, standing in solidarity with our nation's seniors, I declare once again that America will never be a socialist country. Will never be.
Talking about making sure that, the Democrats don't obliterate Medicare. Well, do you see any problems with this? Isn't that a socialist tenet? I'm just curious, how would you define Medicare as a philosophy?
It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't. It really, truly doesn't, clearly. I mean, so many Trump supporters during the last round, they'd hold up signs like, keep your dirty government hands off my Medicare. Thinking, okay, you don't quite understand how all of this works. Right. But, of course, Donald Trump, maybe he understands, maybe he doesn't care. But for him, it's all politics anyways, Dom. He gets that Medicare is a socialist tenet. And he said he'd never affect people's Medicare. But, of course, that's exactly what he intends to do, Dom. He wants to break it so it ain't worth having.
And here's the punchline, cut 53.
Though they use many labels, all of the Democrat plans would devastate our health care system. The fake moderates on the left are telling the same lies they did under the last administration. But the last administration, frankly, was moderate compared to the maniacs that you're hearing from today. These are maniacs. I'm a maniac on the floor, and I'm dancing like I've never danced before.
There it was.
That was the most working out I've done in a couple of days, Michael.
If people are not watching you on the Facebook live stream, really, they should do themselves a favor, go back, rewind, and watch just a few moments of that dance. Really, bravo, sir. Bravo.
844-967-2789. There's more where that came from, but let's get to some callers. Mark from the Sack, you're first today. What do you got for us?
I mean, I have to start keeping notes now to keep up with what's going on, to organize my thoughts into some kind of coherent fashion. And even then, it just, with all the stuff coming at us, I mean, and unfortunately with the maniac music, I just pictured Donald Trump leaning back in a chair with a bucket of water dumped on him. That from as in the Flashdance movie, I go, this is an image that I do not want to see in my head.
Well,
but
Mark, obviously,
think of it as waterboarding, Mark. Does that make it easier?
Tremendously big and tremendously wet.
Hey, Mark, actually, it's. No, you go.
Go ahead, Mark.
Never mind. I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings on the panel.
And then we see that you posted the story there that in 2016, apparently Ron Johnson was part of a letter urging Ukraine to do reforms, as which would apparently what Joe Biden was doing over there on behalf of the administration. So that back in 2016, Rojo was on board with what Biden was doing over there, and now it's just something completely corrupt over there. And as far as Hunter Biden, I thought I heard something that Hunter Biden is part of a pretty high-powered D.C. law firm, which it's shocking to most of us, but that's the kind of price that those guys get when they're working for the governments around the world are going to hire these firms from like D.C. to do work for them, to do the kind of work that he apparently was doing. And
Mark, here's the problem with Hunter Biden, why this story has a little bit of resonance on the right. What is his qualification to do this sort of work, to represent foreign governments? He was literally, and Trump said this today, he was thrown out of the Naval Reserves in 2014 for use of cocaine. And I'm not saying that should disqualify the man from working for the rest of his life. But other than being the son of the vice president, what skill set did he bring to the table?
Well, if he's an attorney, Mark, and he works for this firm, presumably is he licensed, and he's a licensed attorney that gives some
in
skill?
What, the Ukraine or China?
Well, what does Rudy Giuliani have for qualifications these days? He's got a law license and a mouth that'll say anything when he's drunk on TV. I mean, it just doesn't stop. And this whole China thing, I mean, here again, it's a impeachable offense every day. I mean, when you rob a bank out in the open, you're still robbing a bank. You're still committing a crime. I mean, just because Trump is doing this on live TV in front of us all doesn't mean he's still not committing an impeachable offense.
No, you make an excellent point. Thank you for doing so, Mark. Thank you for the call. And I don't want to hammer Joe Biden on this point. Joe Biden is not the one subject to impeachment. Devil's advocates on the other side. More of us, more of you on the phones. 844-967-2789.
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out the Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
That was a hoax, right?
Connie executive Chris Abele wants to look like a hero. He just announced that he is restoring pieces of bus service that he had cut for 2020. Why did Abele cut those routes anyway? He claims a budget deficit, but upon a recent Economist investigation, last year MCTS operating expenses were under budget. In fact, almost $46 million under budget since 2015. How did that happen? Last year, MCTS personnel expenses were under budget, and they have been nearly $40 million under budget since 2015. This is part of a larger expose on the county budget. Look for it in local news in the coming weeks. Isn't it time to stop MCTS deficit by design at the expense of riders and employees? Call Chris Abele and tell him to put Milwaukee Transit Service on a secure funding basis once and for all. This message paid for by ATU Local 998.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Pobletti, and our report for Thursday, October 3rd, is brought to you by Spectrum. The Joint Finance Committee unanimously approved releasing $45 million for the UW system over the next 2 years. But first, JFC also unanimously backed releasing $220,000 appropriated in the budget for a suicide prevention line after adding new reporting requirements and redirecting it through a different agency. As they have over multiple issues with the budget, the committee tussled over the decision by GOP members to require agencies to come back to seek the release of money that had already been allocated. Democratic Senator John Erpenbach said Republicans had unnecessarily delayed the release of the money at a time when the state is facing a suicide crisis. But Republican co-chair John Nygren countered by pointing out that the money will go towards expenses such as software and data collection, and no services have been impacted as a result of the, quote, committee's due diligence. Additionally, Assembly Speaker Robin Vos accused Governor Tony Evers of choosing to, quote, play politics with school children by striking from the state's budget a program that would have helped high schools provide personal computers to freshmen. But an Evers spokeswoman fired back that the charge was an attempt by Republicans to, quote, distract from their broken promise of getting to two-thirds funding by resorting to disingenuous attacks. The program, which went into effect in July 2018 under former Gov. Scott Walker, would have provided nearly $9.2 million per year in grant funding through 2023 to high schools for laptops or tablets, software, online curriculum, and staff training. Finally, The UW system was seeking the release of $15 million in general purpose revenue during the first year of the budget and $30 million in the second. Under that approach, the additional $30 million in the second year would have been built into the university's base funding that will be the foundation for the 2021 through 2023 budget. Instead, the committee approved splitting the money equally between the 2 fiscal years at $22.5 million each. Under that approach, the university will be able to move money between the 2 fiscal years, meaning the tweak won't have impact on the system's overall spending. But the system's base budget to begin the 2021 through 2023 budget process will be $22.5 million higher rather than $30 million more. For WisPolitics Midday, sponsored by Spectrum, I'm Pat Popeletty.
This has been WisPolitics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit wispolitics.com.
All right, what does your church tell you about when people say that they're the second coming of God? My reason tells me the man is certifiable. I want your opinion, Gary.
I would say anybody who comes back and says that, I would say you'd be the Antichrist.
I am the chosen one.
So Trump is the Antichrist, then, Gary, by that logic?
No, I'm not saying he is, but I'm
But
saying
he said he's the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Gary, by your biblical logic, Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Now, Dom, you and I have been arguing through the commercial break, as we often do. And, quite frankly, I don't care about Hunter Biden's qualifications, but a simple Yale Law School degree in and of itself does not qualify him, to my opinion, to
Yale
be on the
University
board of
Juris Doctorate. He went to Georgetown for his degree.
Everyone that okay, so he got his law school degree at Yale. I don't know how that differs from what I said, but thank you. And that still doesn't qualify him, other than the fact he is the son of the vice president and probability to make either of these deals, be it the one in China or to represent this board in the Ukraine. Other than the fact that he is the son of celebrity, and in this case, the celebrity is very involved at the upper echelons of politics, that's his only qualification for that board. Yeah, maybe he's a lawyer, Don, but he's not in the petrochemical industry. He wasn't in the, high finance industry. And the fact that, the partnership, as I've seen it reported, is him, John Kerry's stepson, and Whitey Bulger, mobster Whitey Bulger's nephew. So this is like cronyism are us, nepotism are us. And the fact that probably not illegal, I'm not, Ukrainian prosecutors have said nothing illegal about what Hunter Biden did. No, there's nothing illegal about being born well. But, I've heard it said on Fox News, what if this was Don Jr.? Would we be as nonchalant about this if this was Donald Trump Jr. being accused of being on a board of directors, which he's clearly unqualified for, and getting paid some substantial amount of money, let's call it $50,000 a month, up to $3 million, I've heard, for serving on a board, after he left the military and not good standing not so long ago for drug use in his mid-40s while married with 3 kids. I do judge people because that's not a youthful indiscretion anymore. This was a bad choice made by a grown man.
Number one, drugs shouldn't even be illegal. And while I understand that you shouldn't be doing drugs when you're in the military, I don't even want to hear that crap, man. Now, whether or not the guy is qualified to be on the board of a history major from Georgetown and got his Juris Doctorate from Yale, and I don't know what he did in between there, apparently worked at the U.S. Department of Commerce in some regard on e-commerce policy and MBNA, and certainly probably rode those contacts that he had from his family. I don't doubt it. And is it if I could get away with it, would it be okay? I understand that it's a little strange and nepotism and all that. But if it's not illegal, if he reported his income, then what is the frickin' story? And I get it.
Well, the only story is that it gives, there's just enough resonance. There's just enough smattering of influence peddling that the righties are going to say, see, Joe Biden's done it, and go investigate in the Ukraine. Only here's where that part of the story breaks down, Dom. I'm going to go to the Washington Post as my source. John Hudson, Rachel Bade, and others report the former U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine told House investigators on Thursday, that's today, that he warned President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, that Giuliani was receiving untrustworthy information from Ukrainian political figures about the former Vice President Joe Biden and his son, according to two people familiar with the testimony. Now, this testimony closed door. This happening today on the Hill. Kurt Volker, who resigned last week after being named in a whistleblower complaint that sparked the House impeachment inquiry of Trump, said he tried to caution Giuliani that his sources, including Ukrainian's former top prosecutor, were unreliable and that he should be careful about putting faith in the prosecutor's stories, plural, said the people who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the closed-door meeting. I read on from the Washington Post. Volker's testimony offers the first inside account of the Trump administration's efforts to press for a Ukrainian investigation into Trump's political rival. At the heart of this effort is Giuliani's contention that, as vice president, Biden pushed for the firing of Ukraine's former prosecutor general Viktor Shokin as part of the corrupt plot to halt investigations into Ukrainian national gas company that employed Biden's son Hunter. Now, as pointed out by caller Mark, and we saw this reported today, and I wish we'd have known it yesterday when Ron Johnson was in studio, Ron Johnson was a co-signee on that bipartisan letter encouraging the Ukrainians effectively to fire their prosecutor because the guy wasn't really very good at rooting out corruption.
To address corruption in Ukraine's prosecutor general's office. It's amazing that the senator failed to mention that yesterday when discussing this.
Yes, he lied through omission, could we say now?
The omission of the truth is not a lie.
Dominic, I read on from the Post. Joe Biden has denied the accusation, and foreign policy experts have pointed out that Biden's push to remove Shokin was part of a broader international effort that included the European Union and the International Monetary Fund, where leaders viewed Shokin as inept, much like I view Trump. Volker also said that he and other State Department officials cautioned the Ukrainians to steer clear of U.S. politics. Getting involved, he said, he told them would open the nation up to allegations that they were interfering in an election and could be detrimental to the Ukraine long term, according to two individuals. Volker faced hours of questioning Thursday from members of the House committees leading an impeachment inquiry into Trump, the first of 5 former and current State Department officials to testify as part of the probe. Rep. Michael Turner, a Republican from Ohio, released a statement just before noon saying that after attending the interview for an hour, he felt confident Volker's testimony would not advance House Democrats' impeachment agenda. Volker was named in the whistleblower complaint as a diplomat who set up the meeting between Giuliani and a top advisor to the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky amid Trump's effort to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. The State Department said Volker arranged the meeting between Giuliani and Andriy Yermak, but at Yermak's request, as Giuliani faced a storm of accusations last week that he was conducting rogue U.S. foreign policy in his capacity as Trump's personal lawyer. The former New York mayor countered that he was acting at the request of the State Department, Mike Pompeo's outfit, Dom, and posted a private text message from Volker in which the envoy offered to set up the meeting with the Ukrainians. Shortly afterward, Volker resigned and agreed to sit for an interview that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tried to block, little buddy.
Crudy, the Republican, Turner's statement indicated that the questioning of Volker was being led by staff for Rep. Adam Schiff, who is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, is steering the Democrats' investigation alongside the heads of the Foreign Affairs and Oversight Committees. Turner derided the process, calling Volker's interview a show trial.
If it's a show trial, why aren't they showing us what's on trial?
Yeah, right. One of the president's closest allies in Congress, you mentioned him, Crudy, Rep. Jim Jordan, emerged from the hearing room and declared nothing he has said supports the narrative you've been hearing from Mr. Schiff and the Democrats. Nothing. He characterized Volker as an impressive, knowledgeable witness, but declined to detail any specifics about what has been discussed so far.
And as I pointed out earlier today, Dom, when questioned about Donald Trump on the South Lawn, that little impromptu news conference outside the hearing room on the Hill, Jim Jordan basically said, "We're done here. I got to go." And they left.
We do have a little bit of audio. Thank you, Brian. Jim Jordan, cut 31.
Not one thing he has said comports with any of the Democrats' impeachment narrative. Not one thing.
The Washington Post goes on to report that neither Pompeo nor the State Department has offered an explanation for Volker's resignation. Lawmakers want answers about what that and several other issues, including whether about the $400 million in aid to Ukraine was upheld to pressure Kiev into investigating the Bidens. In advance of his appearance today, Volker had turned over a number of documents to congressional staffers, including a chain of text messages with Giuliani, said a person familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Volker has also turned over physical documents, white papers, and correspondence with other officials, the person said. Volker started his job at the State Department in 2017 in an unusual part-time arrangement that allowed him to continue consulting at BGR, a powerful lobbying firm that represents Ukraine and Raytheon. Interesting. During his tenure, Volker advocated for the U.S. to send Ukraine Raytheon-manufactured anti-tank Javelin missiles, a decision that made the missiles firm millions of dollars. BGR has said Volker recused himself from all Ukraine-related matters in response to criticism about conflict of interest. Volker also kept his job as executive director of the McCain Institute, an affiliation that may explain why Volker never penetrated Trump's inner circle, given the president's open disdain for the late Senator John McCain. Previously, he served as the U.S. ambassador to NATO during the George W. Bush administration. The whistleblower complaint that led to Volker's resignation alleged that Trump abused his office to press a foreign country. We know that story.
Adam Schiff, the aforementioned, he's the the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Dom, at thehill.com. This is what they are reporting. And I'll skip the headline. I'll just read from the body of the piece. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff on Thursday blasted President Trump for asking China and Ukraine to investigate former President Joe Biden, calling it a fundamental breach of the presidential decorum and a threat to national security. Yeah, I would say check. Emerging from a closed-door meeting in the Capitol basement where lawmakers from 3 committees are interviewing a key witness as part of the Democrats' impeachment inquiry, Schiff said the comments are evidence that Trump has ignored the lessons from the former special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference. You know, that's because he claims it's fully vindicating and exonerating, Adam. And Mueller's warning of ongoing foreign influence over critical domestic affairs. Here's a quote. They have the president of the United States urging a foreign country to interfere in our presidential elections is an illustration that this president, if he learned anything from the 2 years of the Mueller investigation, it's that he feels he can do anything with impunity, Schiff told a crowd of reporters staking out the meeting. I read on. Again, a quote, Dom. The president of the United States encouraging a foreign nation to interfere again to help his campaign by investigating a rival is a fundamental breach of the presidential oath of office. It endangers our elections. It endangers our national security. It ought to be condemned by every member of this body, Democrats and Republicans alike. And Dom, as we mentioned, hours earlier, Trump raised plenty of eyebrows. Is that what they call it now when the president commits an impeachable offense on camera? Let me read on. Trump raised plenty of eyebrows when he called on leaders of China and Ukraine to investigate Biden and his son Hunter Biden. I would think that if they were honest about it, they'd start a major investigation into the Bidens, Trump told reporters at the White House. A little bit more here, Dom. In response, Nancy Pelosi, after months tamping down the impeachment push, endorsed a formal inquiry. We know about that. I thought they had a quote from her. They do not. Here is one thing. Rep. Mark Meadows, a Republican from North Carolina, a close Trump ally, said Volker was providing clarity surrounding Trump's July request to the Ukrainian president. Clarity. He's clarifying.
Yes, thank you for that.
Anytime that you can add clarity to what actually happened. It's a good day for Americans, Meadows said. And I think we're getting more clarity. Dom, do you think we're getting more clarity about this president each and every day?
No. I mean, we know what Trump is. We've known this for quite some time.
We've known it because it seemed quite obvious to us, but it hasn't been quite this brazen before, Dom. And now it's quite brazen. And now there are others just noticing out there in the world. Guys like, let's say, Gary and Mike and Nick and that Chris guy that calls in occasionally from random spots. I got to think they're starting to notice this president. He's crossing lines each and every day, lines that could get his ass impeached. And they're nearly indefensible, Dom. And I don't know how the Jim Jordans and the Mark Meadows and the Ron Johnsons of the world intend to continue doing so. But I think even Ron Johnson earlier this week is quoted as saying, Donald Trump has moved the presidency in the wrong direction.
It's a nice way to put it.
That's a nice way of putting it. Hey, this guy should probably get impeached as perhaps another. Come back with us. More of your phone calls, 844-967-2789. And a visit from Batman, Matt Rothschild, in the next hour.
Well, I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute.
Are you talking to me?
You're your own worst enemy here, Mr. President. Knock it off.
Did you ask me a question?
He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot.
Explain that, because my voters don't get it.
Connie executive Chris Abele wants to look like a hero. He just announced that he is restoring pieces of bus service that he had cut for 2020. Why did Abele cut those routes anyway? He claims a budget deficit, but upon a recent Economist investigation, last year MCTS operating expenses were under budget. In fact, almost $46 million under budget since 2015. How did that happen? Last year, MCTS personnel expenses were under budget, and they have been nearly $40 million under budget since 2015. This is part of a larger expose on the county budget. Look for it in local news in the coming weeks. Isn't it time to stop MCTS deficit by design at the expense of riders and employees? Call Chris Abele and tell him to put Milwaukee Transit Service on a secure funding basis once and for all. This message paid for by ATU Local 998.
Dom, the Devil's Advocates are going on an adventure.
Join Crute and I for our inaugural 420-2020 cruise from our friends at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers of Madison. We begin in the City of Angels with the Devil's Advocates reception on April 17th, departing the next day for a 7-night cruise with stops in Cabo San Lucas, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta, Mexico on board a shiny new Carnival Panorama cruise ship.
Expedia prices local service. Visit them on Madison's west side off Mineral Point Road or Google Expedia Cruise Ship Centers.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter, on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we see the callers holding. We're going to get to them in just a moment. But I got to bring up Rudy Giuliani. You know, the president's personal television attorney, Dom, the one that's been making deals all across Europe on behalf of the boss man, trying to get the Bidens investigated, perhaps even leading his own client down the path to impeachment, Dom. That guy, well, someone had a bright idea. I think this very clever. They put an ad up, a satirical ad in the New York City subway. The ad says, need a lawyer? Call Crazy Rudy. The ad takes direct aim at the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, includes an image of the former New York mayor with a wide-eye expression. The satirical advertisement was first spotted on one of the city's subway trains Tuesday afternoon, according to the New York Daily News. Dominic, there was a phone number, and I, in fact, called the phone number from the ad, and I think it should be shared with the audience what the Crazy Rudy answering machine says. And this is literally, we called the number, we recorded what it said. Let's play it for the people. Fancy Brian, going to need your help. The office number, down at Giuliani's place.
You've called the law offices of Crazy Rudy. We specialize in back-channel deals, cable news appearances, and we'll work when drunk. To leave a voicemail, press 1 for Crazy Rudy's law offices.
The working while drunk part, I find that actually sort of commendable.
I think Crazy E-Bike Lenny might have some trademark.
Or 967-2789. Dom, let's get back to the phones. Who's next?
Mud River Lee, you're up. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Lee.
Hi, how are you guys going?
Good,
it's
man.
a great show, as usual.
Thank you.
The topic I have was what comes from right at the beginning of the show, so I'm an hour behind. But I have a suggestion for Trump's behavior as far as asking China to investigate Mullen, Joe's kid. Anyway, the idea is if he does this every day, he'll normalize this behavior. He's talking to his base, and they'll think it's no big deal. So he's trying to obviously negate those charges. He's dumb like a fox. What do you think?
No.
He's not. Unfortunately, from his perspective, Mud River Lee, he kind of got out in front of himself. He believed the conspiracy yarn that Giuliani was knitting, and I think he basically put himself in this position. He thought he was somehow going to be vindicated if he could only pressure enough foreign leaders. We now know Boris Johnson. We now know about the Ukrainians. We know about the Australian president. I mean, it wasn't a limited thing. Trump was basically begging every foreign leader around the world with whatever leverage, financial or otherwise, he apparently had to go investigate his political opponent, Joe Biden, and of course, the son, Hunter.
Rudy, to the mystery machine. Thanks for the call, Lee. 844-967-2789. Steve from Fitchburg, you're next. Thanks, Steve. What do you got for us?
Hey, Steve.
Oh, I think it's hilarious. I mean, it kind of reminds me of 2016, and anytime there was a thing about Hillary, rather than maybe go with a different candidate, it was like, go with Hillary. And so if you could just say that Joe Biden is the most electable candidate, I mean, it's hilarious. It's like stuff like this is going to get Trump reelected. And I don't like Trump either, but, the way you guys are giving the narrative about Hunter and Biden, if you could just fit all four of their balls in your mouth at the same time, I'd laugh a little more. Trump either, but...
Steve?
Listen, with regard to Hunter, I'm not saying that it doesn't look bad, but it's not the first time that, rich kids pal around with other rich kids and they get on the boards of other companies because they're rich kids. And I'm not saying the man isn't educated, that there's not some contribution that he could give to a board of directors for a company, but that in and of itself is not illegal. And I'd say the same thing. I will be consistent if that's the case for any other politicians or president's kids. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I would hope that I would be consistent in that criticism. But what, Trump's going to get elected because, and thanks for hanging up, coward. Way to go out there and talk some trash and not be able to respond to the fact that this president once again is asking for foreign leaders, and I would say certainly adversaries in China and Russia, to help him squash down some political hit job on his local political rivals. I got a problem with that. Gary from Sussex, you're next. What do you got for us today, Gary?
Hey, Gary.
Hey, hi, Mike and Dom. I just happened to turn the radio on. 10 seconds later, I hear my name, along with a whole bunch of other guys. And I'm
Shout
really
out Gary
happy
from Sussex.
I'm so happy that I'm number one on your hit list as far as pains in the butt for you guys.
No,
you're my Joe Biden.
Well, we should specify, Gary, why your name was being called out, because Crudy is under the assumption that Crudy, I want to speak for you, that some Republicans might start to get the feeling that Trump isn't the best president.
Let's just ask Gary. Gary, did you see the president on the South Lawn today calling for foreign influence and foreign interference in the U.S. election, specifically directed towards China? Did you see that part, Gary?
No, I'm working too much. I don't get a chance to watch much TV anymore. Well, I work two shifts, like 16-hour days.
Well, so, Trump also working quite hard. He's been committing an impeachable offense nearly every day, Gary.
Yeah,
go home, watch the evening news. I guarantee you're going to see it. But let's just pretend like I'm telling you the truth for a minute, Gary.
Okay.
Is that problematic?
Let me make my comment where I called, okay? Number one is when you called this last guy when he talked about putting his balls in your mouth or something like that, and he hung up, the fact is, Dom, you hung up on me last time when I called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. Now, I didn't think that was really cool.
And I'm doing it again, Gary. I mean, all right, Gary, I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
But Hunter Biden, I mean, you know as well as I know, and I'm glad to hear that you finally admitted that some shenanigans are going on.
What crime, Gary? Give me a crime.
No, I just said it looked bad, Gary. I just said it bad optics. I didn't say anything bad was actually happening.
They need to investigate all of this. And they also, this Adam Schiff, when he's out there talking about having evidence and pictures of Trump doing all this stuff, he never had any of this.
Really? I bet we see some of the evidence. I bet it's coming to light. Come back with us. Hour 2 of The Devil's Advocates is next.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcroot.com.
I tell you, it's just occurred to me what the student body has been chanting for the last 2 or 3 minutes. It's the name Rudy.
I'm not an expert on the facts yet. I'm getting there.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on WRRD 1510 AM. Weekdays, hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Jocasta Zamaripa, Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at newstalk1510am.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Oath violation. IRS whistleblower. I'm Mike Moss. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the president has confessed to violating his oath of office by today publicly calling for Ukraine and China to investigate the Bidens.
They should investigate the Bidens, because how does a company that's newly formed, and all these companies, if you look at, and by the way, likewise, China should start an investigation into the Bidens.
Pelosi says Trump's requests are wrong.
To ask a foreign government to assist in our election undermines the president's oath of office and threatens the integrity of our electoral system. It's wrong.
A whistleblower within the IRS says a political appointee tried to interfere with the annual audit of the president or vice president. The Washington Post reports the White House calls the complaint flimsy because it's based on conversation. Democrats are discussing whether to make the complaint public. An $800 million settlement of lawsuits from MGM Resorts in the nation's worst mass shooting in Las Vegas 2 years ago. Attorney Robert Eglett says the settlement will allow some families to begin their healing.
We and the MGM hope this agreement will allow the victims, first responders, and the entire community to look forward to the future and continue on a path forward toward healing.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy wants to ban the sale of some vaping products in his state.
The task force recommends a ban on the sale of flavored electronic smoking devices and products, including menthol flavor.
The ban requires legislative approval. Former Coast Guard Lieutenant Christopher Hassan has pleaded guilty to plotting to kill Democrats and TV journalists. His home was filled with weapons and ammunition when he was arrested. On Wall Street, the Dow up 122, the S&P up 23. I'm Mike Moss.
Connie executive Chris Abele wants to look like a hero. He just announced that he is restoring pieces of bus service that he had cut for 2020. Why did Abele cut those routes anyway? He claims a budget deficit, but upon a recent Economist investigation, last year MCTS operating expenses were under budget. In fact, almost $46 million under budget since 2015. How did that happen? Last year, MCTS personnel expenses were under budget, and they have been nearly $40 million under budget since 2015. This is part of a larger expose on the county budget. Look for it in local news in the coming weeks. Isn't it time to stop MCTS deficit by design at the expense of riders and employees? Call Chris Abele and tell him to put Milwaukee Transit Service on a secure funding basis once and for all. This message paid for by ATU Local 998.
Investigators are trying to determine what led to the crash of a World War II-era B-17 bomber in Connecticut, killing 7.
The pilot at the controls of the vintage bomber was Mac McCauley. The 75-year-old was a retired NFL player. Other vintage plane owners said he was a very experienced pilot and mechanic. Gary Mazzone was a retired captain from the Vernon Police Department who spent 22 years on the force. He, too, was among the 7 killed in the crash. The Connecticut Air National Guard said an airman who was on board the B-17 opened a hatch that allowed some passengers to escape the fire. Officials said he used flame-retardant fire gloves he had brought with him to open that hatch. He's recovering from injuries at home. I'm Steve Kastenbaum.
Harvey Weinstein has lost a long-shot bid to move his sexual assault trial out of New York City. The state court today rejected the movie mogul's concerns that he wouldn't get a fair trial in the world's media capital. I'm Mike Moss.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Go back to where they came from, help those people come back and show us how to do it. That was the full quote.
They didn't come from anywhere. They were here, dude. Are you employed, Chris?
I am.
Do you have an HR department?
Yes, I do. I'm a union machinist.
Oh, do you work with minorities?
I do.
If you walked up to one of your coworkers who was a minority, you told them to go back to where they came from, would HR have a conversation with you about that, do you think?
It depends on the person, really. I mean, some people are...
If somebody complained to HR about what you said, do you think they would have a conversation with you about that? Okay.
Absolutely.
But why? Why would they pull you off of your job to discuss this with you, and what do you think their beef would be?
Because they're trying to protect the corporation from lawsuits.
Lawsuit for what?
Discrimination, racism.
So if your coworkers, if you say it to your coworker, it could be described as discrimination or racism. But when the president says it to the world, it's not racist?
No. Yikes.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A third man has now been charged in the death of Jasmine Banks. Pierre Roberson, 21, was charged with first-degree reckless homicide and use of a dangerous weapon for his part in a gunfight that killed 23-year-old Banks. The young mother was driving a car near 5th and Center with her son, her sister, and her nephew in the vehicle when she was caught in the crossfire on September 19th. Already charged in the case are 25-year-old Romance Gunn and 48-year-old Brian Clark. All 3 men are in the Milwaukee County Jail. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, mostly cloudy, lows in the mid-40s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, highs in the mid-50s. And Saturday, rain likely in the afternoon, highs around 60 degrees in Milwaukee, 57 in Madison. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates radio show, Nation Under Impeachment. I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing, Dominic. I'm just pointing out we are a nation under impeachment. Dom, and there is testimony on the Hill right now, secret testimony, but also there are documents that have become available in ABC News reporting about an hour ago. This headline. Actually, I'm going to skip the headlines. I'm done reading headlines, just to the body of the work. In newly disclosed text messages shared with Congress, the top U.S. diplomat to Ukraine writes to a group of other American diplomats that, and this quote kind of damning, Dom, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign. He pretty much spells out the quid pro quo via text. The exchange provided by former U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, Kurt Volker, the recently resigned guy, as part of his closed-door deposition before multiple House committees Thursday, shows what appears to be encrypted text messages he exchanged with 2 other American diplomats in September regarding aid money President Donald Trump ordered to be held back from Ukraine. In the exchange obtained by ABC News, the concerns are expressed by Bill Taylor, the top U.S. diplomat to Ukraine, Gordon Sondland, the United States ambassador to the European Union, responds to Taylor saying that the charge is incorrect. It's incorrect. Don't believe what you're hearing.
No, you're wrong. What does he say?
Bill, I believe you are incorrect about President Trump's intentions. The president has been crystal clear. No quid pro quos of any kind. The president is trying to evaluate whether Ukraine is truly going to adopt the transparency and reforms that President Zelensky promised during his campaign. Sondland says, sounds like he's embroiled as well, Dom. Sondland then suggests to the group they take the conversations offline, typing, I suggest we top the back and forth by text. It's unclear whether the material obtained by ABC News included the full exchange, because they might have gone offline, Dom, as mentioned. Sondland, a guy that owns a hotel and Republican mega donor, contributed over $1 million to the president's inaugural committee before eventually being nominated and confirmed to the United States representative to the European Union. Sondland has been U.S. envoy to the European Union since July of 2018. That's right before Trump started holding up the funds to the Ukraine, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
He has assisted the effort by Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, to contact Ukrainian officials about an investigation, according to Giuliani, who says he briefed Sondland and Volker after his meetings.
In the July 25th call with Ukraine, Zelensky, President Trump asked the new president to work with Giuliani and Barr to investigate Biden and his son Hunter, prompted the inquiry. We know that. Volker resigned last Friday. The State Department has previously confirmed that Volker put Giuliani in touch with Yermak and Zelensky and other Zelensky aides at their request, but did not respond to requests for comments. The text crew came just days before the White House released the military assistance to Ukraine, almost $400 million from the State Department and Pentagon, meant to boost the U.S. partner against Russian aggression. That aid was ordered withheld by the White House a week before the call, according to a senior administration official. In a separate thread between Sondland and Volker directly, the two diplomats discussed contact with Ukrainian officials and requests for them to open an investigation. They appear to be drafting language for Ukrainian officials to announce an investigation into, quote, the problem of interference in the political process of the United States, especially with the alleged involvement of some Ukrainian politicians. On October 15th, they discussed contracting Andriy, an apparent reference to Zelensky's aide, Andriy Yermak. Quote, we want to know our status on asking them to investigate, Volker said. 2 days later, Sondland asked Volker for updates, and Volker responds, quote, I've got nothing. Bill Taylor had no info on requesting an investigation, calling a friend at DOJ, who is apparently Bruce Schwartz. Schwartz is the Deputy Assistant Attorney General for the Department of Justice. Sondland asks, quote, do we still want Z to give us an unequivocal draft with 2016 and Burisma, which could be a reference to the Ukrainian energy company, they spelled it wrong, Burisma, where Hunter Biden's son was a board member. That's the clear message so far, Volker responds. I'm hoping we can put something out there that causes him to respond with that. 2 days after that, Sondland said he'd spoken to Yermak and, quote, drove the larger issue home with him, not about just a meeting, but the relationship per se. There have been questions about whether Trump was withholding a meeting with Zelensky in exchange for an investigation of the Bidens. According to the two presidents met next month during the United Nations General Assembly in New York. During the photo op, Zelensky told reporters, nobody pushed me. Trump jumped in to add, in other words, no pressure. Taylor is the latest State Department official to be caught up in the controversy, a career Foreign Service officer who previously served as ambassador to Ukraine. Taylor has served as the top diplomat in Kiev since May, when Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch was recalled by the administration. Yovanovitch has been smeared by President Trump's personal attorney Giuliani for months as blocking Ukrainian investigations into corruption, an allegation the State Department at the time called an outright fabrication that does not correspond to reality. But Trump referred to Yovanovitch as bad news during the controversial July 25th call.
Now, my understanding is she will also give testimony before the Congress, Yovanovitch, that is.
Yovanovitch, yes. The
844-967-2789. Going to go back to the phones. Dick from Madison, welcome. What do you got for us today?
You know, I think you and I and all of us have been wrong about him all along. You made the analogy about 3 strikes and you're out at the beginning of this with this thing today. He's horse racing. It's a trifecta. So he wins big, right?
Yeah, you win till you lose, Dick.
Yeah.
I think it's more like a Kobe Bryant triple-double of corruption.
But yet you still have these people that are so in the tank for this guy, it's unbelievable. The thing with Rudy, though, that ad, that's great. There used to be a place in Madison called a legal clinic. Ken Hur, you could see an attorney for just $10.
If Giuliani happens to be that attorney, you've overpaid.
Seriously, this gets, if it wasn't so seriously corrupt. And then for him to talk to any leader about corruption, could you just run your country as clean as I run my administration? Let's see. How many people have been indicted? How many people are in jail? And he's talking to somebody else about corruption?
What's your take, Dick, on this most recent story from ABC regarding Volker and these encrypted? And why are U.S. diplomats using encrypted
That would make
text
sense
messaging?
to me. I would want my U.S. diplomats using encrypted messaging. I don't want their communiques available for the world to hack. So, yes, I'm okay with encrypted messaging. I'm just not okay when the guy basically spells out it's his interpretation that the president of the United States is holding back foreign aid to advance his own political outcomes.
Come on, man. They're using the
troubling
encrypted communication to hide the fact that they're trying to get this investigation drummed up for the president. They're not using the
trying
encryption.
to hide it on encrypted, or they wouldn't have had it jumped off the encrypted to a more secure communications method.
A verbal communication. Thank you for the call. Jake from Milwaukee, you're next. 844-967-2789. What do you got for us, Jake?
Hey, Jake.
Yeah, you guys were, going earlier about how, Republicans should be ashamed. Why can't they see it? That kind of stuff. Gary and all the Trump humpers. I think you're looking at it all wrong, actually.
All right.
There's a reason why they're not ashamed or anything, and they are defending it, is because that's what they believe in. They believe in quid pro quo. They believe. Look at how Scott Walker ran the state. I mean, they believe in using government to destroy your enemies. They believe in all of this. So when you talk about Jim Jordan, he's all on with Trump because that's who he is. He believes in that. Ron Johnson believes in that. That's the way to run the government.
So they believe it in their hearts, but they deny it to everybody else. No, I would never do that. No, it'd be a bad thing.
Yes.
If Trump were to go out there and ask for help from a foreign country, that'd be a bad thing. But they secretly endorse it, Jake?
I think most of them do, because they do not believe in the Constitution. They believe their constituents serve them. They're in there for their own good. They're not public servants. I've made this argument before. That's why they don't care. I'm sure there's some of them who are silent about it, but I think the majority of them are fine with Trump doing what he does because they would do it themselves. I can't see. That's what I get a takeaway from it. And there's no way to shame them. They have to be beaten and pushed out of office. That's the only thing to do.
Oh, I thought you meant like a physical beating, like a Geraldo-style ass whooping.
Well, I mean, maybe in some other countries, but not in this country. But, I mean, there is no reasoning with these people. I think they only know, all they want is power, and power alone. Everything else doesn't matter.
Well, Jake, I don't necessarily disagree. And I think the Republicans, let's just call them the Trumpsters, the Trump supporters, they're going to learn soon enough, because a guy like Donald Trump will throw you under the bus, be it a supporter, be it an ex-wife, be it a business partner, be it a supplier or a vendor. This man does not care. Eventually, he's going to throw you under the bus. And I think eventually he's going to get thrown under the bus. You cannot, there is no leadership there. It's pure fear. And when there's weakness and there's when it looks like he's going to be taken down, I think you're going to see rats leaving the ship, and you're going to see the infighting that you see going on, called out Fox News these days, also happening within the Republican Party.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates. We got the biggest balls of them all. Join us. Join the party. 844-967-2789.
Boy, this looks like very big stuff. It's tremendously big and tremendously wet. Are you talking to me?
We the people, the hardworking 99% of men and women, only have a voice when we join together as one and amplify our message. Now is the time for all Wisconsinites to join We the People and raise our voices. Do you feel like you are wasting your money funding unaccountable consultants, unresponsive candidates, and their campaigns? Help us do something that really matters. Please join We the People. Give what you can so we can support progressive radio stations like this one, using the public airwaves to educate Wisconsin about what we the people want for our state, and remind Wisconsin's politicians that they work for us. Your donations to We the People at p4ppc.org, a registered, compliant IRS 501c3, will always be tax deductible, will always remain anonymous, and We the People pledge to spend 100% of donations educating Wisconsin on the issues our donors want discussed, giving individuals a voice in the collective message of We the People. Please give today at p4ppc.org. That's p4ppc.org. We the People need you.
The economic future of America depends on a solid presence of union jobs. The American middle class is the foundation of our local communities, and organized labor is what built the middle class. Starting right here in Wisconsin, need shall be placed on the side of workers. Hello, this is Tom Bennett of Teamsters Local Union number 200. Workers have a voice, and that voice shall be heard. From the bargaining table to the ballot box, workers' values come first. Better wages, affordable health care, and retirement security. Strengthening organized labor strengthens America. Make your voice heard. Join Teamsters Local 200. Call 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com. Check us out on Facebook. Join your brothers and sisters at Local 200. Make a difference. Union yes.
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You can join us on the phones for the 420 break at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I don't watch a ton of Fox News, but I'm going to start making an exception. I'm going to watch Judge Napolitano with more and more frequency. He is breaking hearts over at the Fox News channel. Right. He published something at Fox News, their website, foxnews.com. Andrew Napolitano, Judge Andrew Napolitano, the headline, I will read this one. Trump's call with Ukraine's president manifests criminal and impeachable behavior. That's the headline at foxnews.com from the Fox News chief legal analyst, Judge Napolitano. We've got the sound. Now, he wrote a piece and published it at the Fox News website, but he also had this to say, Fancy Brian, gonna need your help. A little bit longer, but indulge us. It's well worth a listen. Judge Napolitano.
Welcome to my chambers. It is always an unpleasant topic when we're talking about bringing a legal action against the lawfully elected President of the United States. But under the Constitution, the House of Representatives, if they believe the President has engaged in treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, has an absolute right to investigate the President's behavior to determine whether or not he committed an impeachable offense. That phrase, treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, is the basis, the sole basis for impeachment under the Constitution. How did all this come about? Well, a CIA agent formerly assigned to the White House became aware of the President's conversation with his counterpart, the President of the Ukraine, during the course of which he said words to the effect of, "I need a favor." The favor he requested was dirt on Joe Biden. Now, why would he want dirt on Joe Biden? Well, if that favor was to help American law enforcement investigate Joe Biden, there'd be no impropriety. But there's no federal investigation of Joe Biden for any crime or any violation of American law. If the favor was to help the president's campaign, it's a very serious issue. Because as we know from the Mueller investigation, in which the president was accused of obtaining favors from the Russian government, it is a federal crime to receive a favor or to ask for something for a campaign from a foreign national or a foreign government. In the context of all of this is the following. In 2014 and 15, Russia invaded Ukraine. It annexed the province of Crimea. 5 years ago, Crimea was a province of Ukraine. Now it's a province of Russia. What once housed Ukrainians in Crimea now houses Russian troops and Russian tanks aimed at the Crimea-Ukraine border. In response to that, Congress votes to authorize federal aid, American aid to Ukraine, and the sale of American military goods to Ukraine. The president holds all this up, even though his Secretary of Defense, his Secretary of State, his Director of National Intelligence, his Director of the CIA, and every member of his National Security Council said, give them the aid. The Russian tanks are aimed their way. But he held up that aid and instead asked for a favor, which arguably was for his political campaign. That was a violation of federal law. That is an impeachable offense. That is what the Democrats are seeking to investigate. A lot of this is surrounded by confusing arguments. Who was worse, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? These arguments are made by the president's supporters. Many of his supporters are people of goodwill who wish him well and wish that the impeachment would go away. But wishing the impeachment to go away will not make it go away. Instead of a frenetic lawyer on television trying to make Joe Biden look worse, the president should present a principled defense if he has one, because the Democrats have a lot of evidence against him. Welcome to my chambers.
Damn.
Judge Andrew Napolitano. Crudy, he also, on that Fox News, he wrote an opinion. I just want to read a couple of paragraphs, if I may. Should the aid be held up? ? Should the president ask for dirt about Biden from his Ukrainian counterpart? If Biden did anything criminal, shouldn't the Justice Department get involved? Should the transcript of the Trump-Zelensky phone call be hidden? Was the president warned in advance that asking Zelensky for a personal campaign benefit could be criminal or impeachable? Does anyone in the White House tell the president what he doesn't want to hear? Can the president put his own needs and wants above the nation's? In a word, no. Is it violating campaign finance law by involving a foreign government in an American presidential campaign an impeachable offense? Yes, it is. The expressed intention of those who wrote the Constitution and those who wrote the campaign finance laws 200 years later, and the lesson of the post-2016 election and Mueller investigated angst in America, was to keep foreign governments out of the American political system. For heaven's sakes, writes the judge, Trump was just investigated by Mueller for 2.5 tumultuous years for allegedly bringing the Russian government into the 2016 election, and now he has attempted in one phone call to bring the Ukrainian government into the 2020 election. Does he understand the laws he has sworn to uphold? It was to remedy such reckless, constitutionally destructive behavior that impeachment was intended. Judge Napolitano, Fox News, and that was before Trump said today for China to get involved.
You know what? Judge Napolitano has moved up my list. Dominic, he's now my second favorite judge.
Who's your first?
Well, I have 3 favorites. Judge Napolitano, number 2. Number 3, supplanted by Judge Napolitano, Judge Judy, of course.
Oh, no.
And number 1, Dane County District Judge Markson, the guy who wrote the opinion in State v. Crute that was upheld unanimously on appeal at the Wisconsin State Court of Appeals. That was a wonderful decision. He is a truly great judge. And he's Crudy's favorite because he wrote the greatest opinion of all time. Come back with us. We've got Batman, the vigilante of good governance, fresh off his testimony at the Capitol. He's in studio with me next. Matt Rothschild, stick around.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
Would that be obstruction?
Yes. Talk it out, man.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson.
Mueller, in an exhaustive and excruciatingly detailed investigation, found no evidence of conspiracy conclusion. Kind of end of story.
You cannot say that. The evidence they found did not rise.
I just said
the evidence they doesn't make it true, sir. The evidence they found, according to the Mueller report, did not rise to criminal conspiracy. They used encrypted data. They deleted data. They didn't have access to some of the Russian players. You didn't know that your president that you voted for was in negotiations to build a condo in Moscow and give Putin a cherry on top.
Just dropped your pen.
I did. I get a little excited.
Calm down here, Don.
But here's a lot of things that I would say, yes, there is absolutely collusion. Now, does it rise to criminal conspiracy? They could not prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, that's not no conspiracy.
I'm just watching
the
veins pop out of your neck here, and I'm getting a little concerned about you, Don.
I'll be all right if you just answer the question, sir.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on WRRD 1510 AM. Weekdays, hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Jocasta Zamaripa, Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at newstalk1510am.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
Madison Liquidators has officially moved into a bigger, nicer showroom off Pleasant View Road in Middleton, and they are proud to announce they have expanded to provide educational and healthcare institutional furnishings. They have great new offerings of quality new office furnishings from industry leaders like Groupe Lacoste and Via Seating, and you can see the expanded and extensive inventory of used furniture online at MadisonLiquidators.com, or you can call Kelly and have her help you make a plan for your new space. Start today at MadisonLiquidators.com and tell them you heard them on Talk 92.7 FM.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. At a time when Wisconsin is losing family-owned dairy farms at a record rate, Donald Trump's Agriculture Secretary, Sonny Perdue, met with state dairy farmers on Tuesday at the World Dairy Expo in Madison. Perdue did not have any good news for family farmers. He said that there's no guarantee that dairy farms will survive, and added, quote, "In America, the big get bigger and the small go out." And you are invited to attend a town hall meeting with Congresswoman Gwen Moore on lowering prescription drug prices, sponsored by AARP and the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare. The meeting will be at the Italian Community Center in Milwaukee next Friday, October 11th from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, mostly cloudy, lows in the mid-40s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Kurt are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, we welcome back a fine guest and a friend of ours. He is Matt Rothschild. He's Batman. He is the vigilante of good governance from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Welcome back, Matt.
Thanks for having me on. It's always great to see you.
Yeah,
now,
good to see you, Matt.
Did you give Senate testimony today? You're coming directly, or at least, you know, who knows, probably stopped off for some coffee or something, but coming from the Senate, and there is a hearing afoot today, and you gave testimony, as I understand it.
I did. I was there, gave testimony, took some questions, heard the testimony from the sponsors of the legislation, Tom Tiffany and Knodel, Representative Knodel from Washington County. They didn't even barely know it was on their own bill. This is a joint resolution to call for a convention of the states. This is a right-wing idea to have a so-called Article 5 convention of the states. You may have heard it before in the context of a balanced budget amendment. They are for imposing fiscal restraints. That was one thing. Term limits was another. And then the last thing was just a massively broad idea to curtail the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. And that's about as wide open as you can get. And one of the problems, the major procedural problem with one of these convention of the states, which may sound good to you in theory or in political philosophy, but once you get a convention of the states together, no matter what it was called for, they can go, rip up the entire Constitution that we have. I mean, there goes, our First Amendment.
I thought Trump had already done that, Matt.
Well, he's busy doing it, but it's still there, and he may get stuck on it still.
So, Matt, I'm going to be clear. Clause. So, whatever the justification or reason or whatever people would agree to in order to do this convention of the states, once that door is opened, everything could potentially be on the table.
Yeah, for two reasons. Once you get to a convention of the states, the conventioneers, the delegates can do whatever they want. And by the way, the delegates who would be selected from Wisconsin would be selected 6-3 in favor of the Republicans, the way they've written the legislation. But the other thing is, look at the call in this joint resolution is so vague and broad. Limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. Well, the whole Constitution, the entire document, deals with the power and the jurisdiction of the federal government. So basically, they're saying in their own language that everything's going to be on the table. And frankly, I don't want everything on the table. I want to keep my First Amendment rights. I want to keep a lot of those things that are enshrined in the Constitution.
Constitutional remedies. Scott Walker somehow involved in this action. I don't mean today, but in general, he's out, fronting a national group that would push for the balanced budget amendment. Scott Walker's one of the ones advocating for this congressional convention. Do I got that part right, man?
Yeah, that's one of the gigs he got once he got booted out of his governor's chair. But I didn't see his name appear in this or on the website of the Convention of the States, but I did find an Eric O'Keefe mentioned there. In fact, mentioned quite prominently. He's CEO of this effort of the Convention of the States. Now, your listeners may not remember. I know you guys do. Eric O'Keefe was running Wisconsin Club for Growth here and got embroiled in the John Doe 2 controversy and investigation, where a special prosecutor was going after him and Scott Walker for potentially violating campaign finance laws. Now Eric O'Keefe has surfaced again in this right-wing effort.
Now, Eric O'Keefe, Wisconsin Club for Growth, they coordinated over $20 million, if memory serves, with the Friends of Scott Walker campaign. And R.J. Johnson, I believe, was the hub, working for both organizations, effectively coordinating in an illegal fashion at the time. The Government Accountability Board, then the referees of elections, they had clearly stated you cannot coordinate with these third-party groups. Scott Walker did so anyways. And Eric O'Keefe, his defense was masterful because it was one-sided. The prosecutors, much like in the circumstance of Mueller, the prosecutors honored the gag order. Eric O'Keefe did not. He went all over right-wing talk radio. He made his case for months and months and months, and he polluted the electorate as to what had really gone on. And I would say Eric O'Keefe was covering his own ass as much as Scott Walker's ass. My understanding, the civil forfeiture on that $20 million plus in coordination would have been a Kobe Bryant triple-doubler. It would have been $120 million civil forfeiture. That is plenty of incentive for Eric O'Keefe to hire David Rifkin and the boys and girls from the high-priced D.C. law firms and get out legally in front of this and, keep Scott Walker's ass out of jail, perhaps.
Well, and they get out legally just because the Wisconsin Supreme Court is so rigged. I mean, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, the conservatives on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, funded by the same people that Walker was shaken down for in the scandal.
Because Scott Walker asked.
Yeah, and so, they came up, the conservatives on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, with a novel interpretation of the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States that says the state of Wisconsin cannot ban coordination with outside groups that are doing so-called issue advocacy work, like Wisconsin Club for Growth. And so that gave Walker a get-out-of-jail-free card and, cleared everything up for him.
And made us the wild, wild west here in the state of Wisconsin for campaign finance laws. So the long and the short is Eric O'Keefe, not a good guy.
Well,
at least if you like good governance and non-illegal campaign coordination.
Yeah, if you like pro-democracy reforms, if you like progressive reforms, he's been on the opposite side of just about every single one.
No, I guess to look at it from their perspective, apparently they're very concerned about what? The national debt, Matt, right? Yeah. I'm just unclear if if they're going to make sure that we run on cash accounting on a national basis like we do here in the state of Wisconsin, the government cannot borrow money above and beyond what it takes in. I'm unclear how would natural disasters or wars or any of those issues, hell, we have another recession coming and we need an influx of governmental spending to help keep the banks open. How would business be done? How would government be done in this new world?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question, because this fetish about the debt and about being against deficit spending, this idea that we need to impose fiscal restraints in an amendment to the U.S. Constitution would cripple our economy when things go south, like you're saying, Dom. I mean, for instance, if this amendment had passed and we're in 2008, 2009, we'd be in a Great Depression right now. If it was on the books in 1933, we never would have gotten out of the Great Depression, maybe, and would never have been able to help win World War II. I mean, it's just, to deny the ability of the federal government to go into deficit spending in time of recession is like telling a cancer patient you can't have chemotherapy or radiation.
Man, that's effectively what Grover Norquist has advocated for, drowning, creating a government so small you could drown it in a bathtub. I mean, Scott Walker's hero, Ronald Reagan, took the attitude, the scariest 11 words in the English language are, we're here from the government and we're here to help, something of that effect. Well, they, of course, think government is broken, which is ironic because, of course, all Scott Walker is qualified to do is run for political office or head up some sort of right-wing think tank. But ultimately, Matt, how did this go today? Was anyone supportive? Would it have mattered if everyone in the room was against it? Do you think that impacts Tom Tiffany's and the drafters of this bill?
Well, I think people who are listening should contact their legislators and oppose this bill, this Article 5 Convention of the States. Even the chairman, Senator Craig, who's not liberal by any stretch of the imagination, was wondering about the broadness of this legislation, this joint resolution, because they say all term limits for all federal employees, including judges, so they would take lifelong appointees on the judiciary away. And there just seemed to be an endless amount of trouble that could come from this. I've got to say, Senator Lena Taylor was tremendous today. Outspoken, defiant, and then someone in the crowd started to giggle when she was saying, look, we needed a powerful federal government to abolish slavery and abolish Jim Crow, and someone giggled, and she just went off and said, how dare you, basically.
Someone in the gallery? Or
someone in the gallery.
Oh, okay.
And she demanded of the chairman.
So it wasn't
Fitzgerald
order. Giggling?
No. It's
just checking.
Some white person in the gallery.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Got a fine guest here with me in the Madison studios. He is Matt Rothschild. We call him Batman. He is the vigilante of good government from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Got to ask you about a few other related, maybe not related to this committee hearing issue, special elections. Now, Governor Tony Evers, and it feels good to say that after like 8 years, but Governor Tony Evers has set dates for a special election. I believe in its Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District. Sean Duffy resigned his position effective September 23rd. And shortly thereafter, Tony came out and said, we're going to have special elections in January and a primary, if necessary, on December 30th. And we're going to do it on Mondays. And that Monday just happens to be the Monday before New Year's Eve. And if you ask Robin Voss, it also happens to be Hanukkah. Matt, first and foremost, setting aside the disingenuous attacks from Robin Voss, you were not happy about Tony's choice and felt like it was what? What was your opinion of this decision?
Well, I thought it was outrageous, and it was amateur hour by the Evers administration. I mean, let's face it. I mean, how many people are going to turn out to vote on Monday, December 30th in a primary in Wisconsin?
And you think they meant to do that to what?
I don't know.
Perhaps depress Republican voters and give a candidate of the left some chance, man?
Maybe. I don't really understand the logic behind it. They're going to change this now. He's decided, I guess it was a violation of federal law because he wasn't giving the military time enough to get their ballots in or something. So
come on. Really?
He has to backpedal on this. I mean, he stepped in it. This was an unforced error by the governor and his staff.
perhaps his first unforced error of his term.
But don't we, gentlemen, I just want to be clear, though. Do you believe that we should hold these primaries and the primary in this election as soon as reasonably possible? I mean, don't these people deserve to have representation, especially
Absolutely,
what's going on in this country right now? We could have an impeachment vote, and they don't have anyone to represent them.
Absolutely, we should have it, but it would be easier to have it with the spring elections coming up, with the April election being the general and having a primary a month before that or 4 weeks before that. That would have been simple. I think that would have been time enough. This idea of having people vote on Mondays, who goes to vote on Mondays? I mean, no one's going to turn out. If the idea is to have more people turn out in a democracy, let's have them on a regular voting day, which is a Tuesday, and let's not do it between Christmas and New Year's.
Man, you got to think someone strategically looked at the fact it is a Wisconsin Supreme Court general, meaning the April date is the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, and someone gets elected that day, be it the Walker appointee Dan Kelly or perhaps Ed Falone or Jill Karofsky. One of those three will be the Wisconsin Supreme Court justice. And it's also the presidential primary election. And we all know that the Republicans seemingly seem set on their soon-to-be impeached candidate, and the Democrats have a vibrant primary going on. So the presumption is that that race would favor the Democrats. But if you give anything up in the Northwoods, where Donald Trump is still very popular, to inspire voters to come out in the spring primary, strategically somebody had to have told Tony Evers, hey, we don't want to align this. But that seems like the very same tactics that the Republicans had considered during the lame duck when they had proposed uncoupling the Supreme Court race with the presidential primary.
Yeah, I don't like any scheming to suppress voter turnout to help your side, whether it's Democrats doing the scheming or Republicans. And Walker, remember...
But it is our turn, right, man?
Walker didn't even want to call special elections, remember?
Right.
He didn't call a special election until 3 judges forced him to. But this did not look good for Governor Evers' staff. He got some bad advice on someone who was trying to game the timing of these elections, no doubt.
But Matt, do you think waiting until the spring is reasonable, especially considering, based on some of the conversations we've had recently, that hell, there could be an impeachment vote before Thanksgiving, and they're not going to have anybody to represent them? I mean, that's problematic, is it not?
It is problematic. But I think the most sensible thing to do, if you want a decent turnout, is to coordinate it with the April election. Certainly, he chose the worst time possible. I mean, let's just stipulate that Monday, December 30th for a primary. What? New Year's Eve wasn't available?
Well, he could have picked, Wednesday, New Year's Day, perhaps, and seen what turnout looked like. At least it would have been a day off.
Do we have a sense of what the actual federal timing requirements are for, service members to be involved in the voting process? Certainly, they have the right to do that, and I would think that someone would have known that. But do we know when that date is? What's the soonest this could happen?
I don't have it on me. I know the Wisconsin Elections Commission, which I consulted before I wrote my little screed about this, had given the governor and his staff several different dates that they could have used.
Okay.
Now, Matt, the Wisconsin Elections Commission has made a recent decision to utilize voting machines that don't display who the voter actually voted for. They would display a barcode. And we had Karen McKim, a citizen activist, in recently, and despite the objections of Karen and many citizens, the Wisconsin Elections Commission, and half of them are Dems and half are Republicans, but they chose to go forward with this. Matt, wanted to get your opinion. Are you worried about electoral tampering here in the state of Wisconsin? Don't we have enough eyes on these elections, or is there always a concern?
Well, there's always a concern. I'm not as worried as Karen Kim is. The Wisconsin Elections Commission is trying to put in some more oversight. They did actually in the last election. They had an audit after the Green Party candidate required one in the presidential race, and it looked like things were working according to Hoyle, relatively speaking, not perfectly, of course. And I'm all for having a paper trail on everything, so don't get me wrong on that. But I'm not terribly worried about the security of our voting system at this point.
Matt, I've got at least one more Wisconsin question. Maybe we'll hold you over the break. You got a few more minutes?
Sure.
Okay, we'll keep you around. We'll take a break right now. We are the Devil's Advocates. We got Batman live in studio here in Madison with me. He is Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. He is the executive director thereof. And we're talking about all things Wisconsin, good governance, protests. I want to talk about some protests. There is a big hullabaloo going on in the state of Wisconsin right now because there is a anti-protest piece of legislation being considered a assembly hearing this week. And the troubling part, as far as I'm concerned, Matt, is there are Democrats that support this bill. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates on the other side. More Matt Rothschild. More of us. More of you.
I think the criticism will be dissipated as we move forward.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
So, folks, let's polka tonight and get to work tomorrow.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
Gingras, Thompson, and Wachs, the attorneys with more power, more fight, and the most heart, are here to serve you, Milwaukee. From personal injury to civil rights cases, we are determined to combat dishonesty and injustice. And our team brings the fight with integrity, passion, and dedication that never quits. Together, we right the wrong, and we are ready for battle. There are law firms, and then there is Gingras, Thompson, and Wachs. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella, Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines. Five Nines is more than just our name. It's the level of service you can expect. We provide 99.999% uptime. That's the highest availability performance you can get. You have enough to worry about with your business data, web, security, and cloud services, so we'll manage your IT so you don't have to. Visit 5nines.com. That's the number 5nines.com.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you missed any of this fine program, please go online to domandcrute.com. You can listen to and download podcasts and interviews.
Dominic, I've got Matt Rothschild here with me in the Madison studio, the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Matt, I know you were at the Wisconsin State Capitol today, a very recent committee hearing on the assembly side, an anti-oil pipeline protest seemingly inspired by the petroleum industry, and if I understand, perhaps written by the fine organization, the American Legislative Exchange Council, a very corporatist Republican favoring a model legislation operation. And we've got like 5 otherwise good Democrats supporting this bill. Matt, how do you think the Democrats got mixed up in this?
You know, sometimes I just think they and their staffers just don't do their homework, and they get contacted by people for a proposal that might be sold to them as sounding pretty good, and then they sign on, or maybe they're getting some money from them too, who knows. And it's terrible. I mean, I wanted to get off my tail and testify at this thing, and I didn't get on it in time, but it is a terrible bill. It's Senate Bill 386, and basically it would make it a serious crime to trespass onto any property or damage any property of a whole bunch of energy providers. And so if you went to, and weren't invited to or weren't a shareholder at one of their annual meetings and you were protesting and they said you're trespassing, you got to get out of here, and you continued to, boo or hold up your sign, you might be in the slammer. And I just think this is just another effort to criminalize protest, and Lord knows we don't need more penalties for that.
I don't know if you know, but my favorite judge of all times is Judge Markson here in Dane County, who ruled very meritoriously in the State v. Crute. But you were also arrested at the Wisconsin State Capitol. You were not protesting. You were there as a journalist covering protests, singing protest, summer of 2013. But, Matt, you must have an opinion as someone who was caught up in unjustly, unconstitutionally arrested. Matt, it's got to hit close to home for you, right?
It does, yeah. That's why I was angry at myself that I didn't get it together to testify in time, and I might submit something anyway in the next couple of days. But yeah, I mean, we were there in the Capitol, and I was just taking pictures of a raging granny who was being arrested, and they were taking her to the elevator down the hall, and I followed her down the hall, and the cop said, "Stop." I said, "I'm with the media." He says, "Arrest him." And they actually booked me down in the basement, and then, took me down in the basement and booked me at the Dane County Jail for a couple hours. So that wasn't a lot of fun. But look, there's been this whole effort by corporate America to criminalize protests everywhere. We saw it at the Dakota Pipeline, where Rebecca Kemble got arrested and finally got off, thank God, with some good lawyering. And we saw it here in Madison, the Capitol, during the protests. And this is just another effort, but it's also another example of who writes our laws. And what's behind them? Is there tremendous grassroots interest? And we got to pass a law to prevent protests on utility company property and energy industry property. I didn't hear that in any of the campaigns around the state.
Right.
Which candidate was running on that proposal?
But
all of a sudden, they get elected and they push this bill that's written by someone else that's written by an industry lawyer.
Now, I've had conversations this week via Messenger with Christine Sinicki, and we've got a mutual friend who was very, very tough on her, and I actually didn't think it was entirely appropriate as the conversation played out. But whatever, that's beside the point. Christine Sinicki is one of the Dems that is supportive of this piece of legislation, and Christine points towards the labor unions. And there are labor unions that apparently, and there are lots of labor unions that would hope to lay these pipelines across the spine of Wisconsin. Is labor the right ones to be standing with corporate interest in this regard, Matt?
I don't know. I saw that dispute on Facebook, on Christine Sinicki's Facebook page. I am not absolutely clear what labor's role is or what part of labor is on the side of this bill or not. I think it's a mistake for them to do it. Sometimes the labor unions, some of them supported Walker in his reelection. I mean, there are mistakes that labor unions make when they're being very, very short-sighted and not aligning with their natural allies. And I think this may be one example of that.
Now, Christine Sinicki has a very busy schedule this week, she told me, and she was offered a platform here, and she does seemingly want to take us up on that offer and come and join us here on the Devil's Advocate, so we'll see about next week. But Matt Rothschild, you've been a fine guest this half hour, man. We appreciate you coming down. Our good buddy, Matt Rothschild, he is the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, known around here as Batman, because he is the vigilante of good governance, and he is a friend of ours. Matt, we appreciate you coming down, man.
Well, it's always great to be on. I love your show.
Yeah, thank you, man. If people want to find out more about your organization, how do they do so?
Just go to www.wisdc.org, wisdc.org.
And I know you're nonpartisan, but last 10 seconds, what's your opinion? Impeachment now, Matt?
Impeachment's happening. I've been for it for a while.
Come back with us. The happy hour commences next with your phone calls at 844-967-2789.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcrute.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
If I can take on 100,000 protesters, I can do the same across the world.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on WRRD 1510 AM. Weekdays, hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, The Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Jocasta Zamaripa, Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at newstalk1510am.com.
Dom, the Devil's Advocates are going on an adventure.
Join Crute and I for our inaugural 420-2020 cruise from our friends at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers of Madison. We begin in the City of Angels with the Devil's Advocates reception on April 17th, departing the next day for a 7-night cruise with stops in Cabo San Lucas, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta, Mexico on board a shiny new Carnival Panorama cruise ship.
Expedia prices local service. Visit them on Madison's west side off Mineral Point Road or Google Expedia Cruise Ship Centers.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
Ambassador removal, IRS whistleblower. I'm Barbara Cusack. The former envoy to Ukraine, Kurt Volker, appeared before 3 House committees today in a closed-door session. Details from correspondent Manu Raju.
Republicans who have emerged from this closed-door briefing have tried to push back, saying that Volker has provided nothing, in their view, to further the Democrats' impeachment narrative. Democrats, at the same time, also at the moment withholding their comments, saying that they won't discuss this until after.
Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reports President Trump had ordered the removal of the Ukraine ambassador following complaints from Rudy Giuliani and others that she allegedly was obstructing efforts to persuade Kiev to investigate Joe Biden. Vice President Mike Pence defended President Trump's call that foreign governments investigate one of Trump's leading Democratic rivals. Trump is now saying that China should investigate Joe Biden and his son as well, the same request he made to Ukraine's president. An official at the IRS has filed a whistleblower complaint that may be pertinent to the Democrats' push for the release of President Trump's tax returns. Correspondent Lauren Fox reports the whistleblower said that he was told at least one political appointee at the Treasury Department tried to improperly interfere with the annual audit of the president or vice president's tax returns.
Democrats were saying all along that if there was credibility to this, that would add more heft to their case, because they're basically saying, look, if there's a way for a political appointee to influence this, that would be very significant, and it would mean that we need to change the country's laws.
U.S. Attorney General William Barr wants Facebook to give law enforcement a way to read encrypted messages sent by users. The request reignited tensions between tech companies and law enforcement. The National Retail Federation figures holiday sales will rise between 3.8% and 4.2%, even as uncertainty looms over an escalating trade war with China. That would be a marked increase, though, compared to last year's 2.9% growth. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Connie executive Chris Abele wants to look like a hero. He just announced that he is restoring pieces of bus service that he had cut for 2020. Why did Abele cut those routes anyway? He claims a budget deficit, but upon a recent Economist investigation, last year MCTS operating expenses were under budget. In fact, almost $46 million under budget since 2015. How did that happen? Last year, MCTS personnel expenses were under budget, and they have been nearly $40 million under budget since 2015. This is part of a larger expose on the county budget. Look for it in local news in the coming weeks. Isn't it time to stop MCTS deficit by design at the expense of riders and employees? Call Chris Abele and tell him to put Milwaukee Transit Service on a secure funding basis once and for all. This message paid for by ATU Local 998.
Despite a health scare, presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders will be taking part in the October 15th debate in Ohio.
The Sanders campaign confirms the 78-year-old senator will be on the debate stage despite undergoing a procedure this week to insert 2 stents to open a blocked artery. The procedure was necessary after Sanders experienced chest discomfort during an earlier campaign event. A spokesman says Sanders is in good spirits and that he will be resting up for the next few days. Bernie Sanders will be one of 12 Democratic presidential contenders to take part in the debate, which will be held just outside of Columbus, Ohio. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
Ohio University has suspended all its fraternities following allegations of widespread hazing. 2 best-of-5 National League Division Series get underway today, with the first game pitting the St. Louis Cardinals against the National League East champion Braves in Atlanta. And then it's the Nationals and the Dodgers opening their series in Los Angeles. I'm Barbara Cusack.
The economic future of America depends on a solid presence of union jobs. The American middle class is the foundation of our local communities, and organized labor is what built the middle class. Starting right here in Wisconsin, need shall be placed on the side of workers. Hello, this is Tom Bennett of Teamsters Local Union number 200. Workers have a voice, and that voice shall be heard. From the bargaining table to the ballot box, workers' values come first. Better wages, affordable health care, and retirement security. Strengthening organized labor strengthens America. Make your voice heard. Join Teamsters Local 200. Call 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com. Check us out on Facebook. Join your brothers and sisters at Local 200. Make a difference. Union yes.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Under a new rule proposed by the Trump administration, nearly 40,000 people in Wisconsin could lose their food stamp benefits. The change would also increase the costs for Wisconsin taxpayers by millions of dollars a year because the state would have to upgrade the computer systems that administer the program, and the workers would have to be retrained. Plus, the proposal would require greater scrutiny of the assets of people who apply for benefits. The changes would cost Wisconsin taxpayers about $10 million per year. According to the Journal Sentinel, Republican Congressman Glenn Grothman supports the new rules because, he says, a lot of people didn't know that millionaires are eligible for food stamps. Grothman added that he's glad Donald Trump came along and decided to put a stop to it. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the Thursday afternoon happy hour, and I'm happy to announce there's some breaking news. But first, let me thank our most recent guest, a fine one, Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, a friend of ours, always a welcome guest here. But Dominic, the stunning breaking news of the day, Donald Trump went out on the south lawn of the White House and sought, aid from foreign governments in the investigation of Joe Biden, specifically not just the Ukraine this time, but also reached out to China. If you're listening.
You got a problem with that, Mike? A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Thought it was
I agree. I think that's a little, I don't think that's proper. But, what am I, just a guy on the radio?
A transgression, perhaps rising to the level of high crime and misdemeanor, in my opinion, Dom. Perhaps an impeachable offense, but you know who doesn't have any big issue?
Trudy, it's all a matter of interpretation.
Our fine guest yesterday, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson, according to Molly Beck at the Journal Sentinel, Ron Johnson okay with President Trump asking China to investigate 2020 political rival. This headline published just mere minutes ago, Dom. Let me get it started. Dateline Middleton, that's where I live. U.S. Senator Ron Johnson said Thursday, there's nothing improper about President Donald Trump's call on Chinese officials to investigate his top political rival in his 2020 re-election bid. Other than the abuse of a power part, Ron, I guess I see nothing tremendously wrong with it either. Anyways, Trump extended the invitation Thursday to a foreign country as he faces impeachment over a similar request of the president of Ukraine in just months after Trump's 2016 campaign was investigated over its ties to Russia, to Russian officials. That's Molly's writing, not my reading. Johnson told reporters Thursday it's appropriate for Trump to seek help from other nations to determine whether criminal acts have been committed. It's appropriate, Tom. Perfectly appropriate, I read. The actual quote. I want to find out what happened during 2016, he said after visiting a meeting of the Middleton Chamber of Commerce. And just a side note digression, our fine salesman here in Madison, Luke Mathers, well, he was at the Middleton Chamber of Commerce this morning, came in and said, didn't see you there, Crudy, but did not mention the fact that U.S. Senator Ron Johnson apparently was there. Again, Ron's quote, if there's potential criminal activity, the president of the United States is our chief law enforcement officer. Really? Really? He wears that hat? I mean, maybe ceremonially, but he's out there investigating.
He's
one of the Hardy brothers?
The Hardy Boys.
He's freaking Nancy Drew over here, Ron. Let me read on.
Columbo.
We have proper agreements with countries to investigate potential crimes, so I don't think there's anything improper about doing that. Well, you know, that's really twisted logic, Ron.
Just one more thing.
It was unclear Thursday what potential crimes Trump believes the Bidens may have committed in China. Let's not forget the other breaking news story. Volker, the former envoy, the United States envoy, gave closed-door testimony earlier today and told us, or told the world, told the House, that Rudy really should have known better because they were telling him that this was not to be trusted, that this information about the Bidens was not reliable, not credible. Yet Giuliani pressed on. Well, apparently the Mercers, Rebecca Mercer, you know, the Cambridge Analytica folks.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's funding that investigation, and Rudy isn't getting paid for his legal activities for the White House or the president. Well, Rudy's got to make money somehow. Apparently it's acting as what? A rogue agent of the U.S. government, Dom? Let me read on. Trump has contended that Hunter Biden persuaded China to contribute $1.5 billion to an investment fund around the time he traveled to the country with his father aboard Air Force Two in 2013, a claim an attorney for Hunter Biden has denied, according to the Washington Post. Johnson said he doesn't trust China any farther than I can throw them.
Wait, let's stop right there for a moment, if I may. So, Senator, you're telling us that it's entirely appropriate for the President of the United States to ask a leader of another country, China in this case, with whom we are engaged in certainly trade wars and obviously militarily we're frustrating each other as well. You don't trust them as far as you can throw them, but you think it'd be okay to get what? Information about the president's political rival? You're going to trust that?
Well, here's why you got to trust the communist Chinese, Dom. Johnson said that he doesn't trust China any farther than he can throw them, and that U.S. agencies would conduct a better investigation, but Johnson said U.S. intelligence officials also could use their information. Here's his quote. I don't know what may or may not have happened with China and the Bidens. You don't really care. You're just trying to cast aspersions, Ron, but I read on. But I think an awful lot of these investigations can actually occur here in America, which would be legal and proper, Ron. What's not legal and proper is when the president goes out on the south lawn of the White House and encourages a foreign government to investigate our president, or, pardon me, former vice president, your political rival, Trump. That's not okay, Ron, but Ron's okay with that. Again, his quote. The American people have a right to know if something wrong happens as it related to politics and the 2016 election, and we have the right to know that, you know, setting aside the Mueller report, which he finds exonerating, Dom. Right. If Ron Johnson's true motivation is getting to the bottom of the electoral shenanigans of 2016, well, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are accused of cashing that $1.5 billion check in 2013. That was well before the election, has nothing to do. I mean, Joe Biden didn't even run for the presidency in 2016. So any accusations, even if merited and true, about Joe Biden, A, stem from an event in 2013, B, have not a damn thing to do with the 2016 election, and Ron, we're really digging the dirt to harm Joe Biden for 2020, right? I mean, your logic doesn't make any sense, Senator.
Crudy, Johnson made stops in Waukesha and Dane counties this week as the U.S. House Democrats continue their impeachment inquiry into Trump's effort to work with foreign countries to investigate former Vice President Biden, his potential rival in the 2020 election. And this is ironic. This is funny, Crudy. We noted this. At an event in conservative Pewaukee on Wednesday, the audience didn't mention the impeachment inquiry, but in more liberal Middleton, it was the topic of one of the first questions. Johnson reiterated Thursday that the Democrats' characterization of a phone call Trump made to Ukrainian President Zelensky misrepresents its significance. I look at the transcript and I go, it's Trump being Trump. It's Trump being Trump. Crudy, Johnson has called for a review of whether Biden improperly used his office as vice president to remove Ukraine's top prosecutor in order to prevent him from investigating the company Biden's son oversaw as a board member. CNN reported Thursday, Crudy, today, Johnson signed a letter in 2016 urging then Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko to make reforms in the same office. Johnson said in Middleton he didn't remember the letter. Those countries are trying to shed the legacy of corruption, endemic corruption, throughout their societies, Johnson said. Speaking generally, I send out all kinds of oversight letters. I don't know which 2016 oversight letter you're referring to, so I will look at that and then we'll issue a press release statement or something, but I don't engage in hypocrisy. I'm looking at getting the truth.
So his lie of omission to us yesterday, because Ron Johnson failed to mention anything about a letter, a bipartisan letter that Ron signed off on, in 2016, Dom? And Ron Johnson's letter at that time basically expressed, I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not trying to be treasonous, Adam Schiff style, but basically Ron Johnson's letter said, fire the prosecutor, the same prosecutor that Joe Biden bragged about seeking to pressure Ukraine to fire. Ron Johnson had the exact same opinion at the time. Hell, he wrote a letter and signed it and didn't tell us anything about it yesterday. I'm so very hurt.
Crudy, he said he didn't remember, but he'll issue a statement. Here's what CNN reports. The letter shows that addressing corruption in Ukraine's prosecutor general's office had bipartisan support in the U.S. and further undercuts the baseless attack made by Trump and his allies that Biden pressured the Ukrainian government to fire the prosecutor general Shokin to stop investigations into the Ukrainian gas company Hunter sat on the board of. There is no evidence of wrongdoing by either Joe or Hunter Biden, nor is it clear whether Hunter was under investigation at all. Trump called the 2016 dismissal unfair in his July 25th Ukrainian phone call. A lot of people are talking about that, the way they shut your very good prosecutor down and you had some very bad people involved. Remember that. The 2016 letter sent by members of the Senate Ukraine caucus, was signed by Republicans, Senator Portman, Matt Kirk, and Ron Johnson, as well as some Democrats.
I don't remember that, Dom. I'll have to issue a statement later about that.
Here's some verbiage from the letter. Succeeding in these reforms will show Russian President Vladimir Putin that an independent, transparent, and democratic Ukraine can and will succeed. It also offers a stark alternative to the authoritarianism and oligarchic cronyism prevalent in Russia. As such, we respectfully ask that you address the serious concern raised by the minister. We similarly urge you to press ahead with urgent reforms to the Prosecutor General's office and judiciary. The unanimous adoption by the Cabinet of Ministries of the Basic Principles and Action Plan is a good step. CNN goes on to write that Kirk is no longer in Congress, but Crudy, Johnson signed onto a letter with Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley last week to Attorney General Bill Barr asking him to investigate, in part, allegations surrounding Biden and Ukraine. Johnson's office did not respond to a request for comment, nor did Portman's office comment. I want to get to a little bit more here. We have a few more minutes.
Did you call Tony? Did you call Tony and find out what the real is?
I have not called Tony. Let's see. Here we go. The file, the CNN review of hearings in the House and Senate at the time also found bipartisan concern for corruption in Ukraine from Republican members of Congress and praise for Biden's efforts from former members of George W. Bush's administration and an Obama administration official who is now a nominee for an ambassadorship in the Trump administration. At a hearing in March 2016 on Ukrainian reforms, Senator Bob Corker, the Republican chair of the committee, who would one day become a top Trump critic within the GOP, raised concerns about corruption in Ukraine and said his hearing would delve into what pressure the U.S. could apply. At the same hearing, Herbst, a former ambassador to Ukraine in the Bush administration, testified there was widespread support for the removal of the Prosecutor General Shokin and specifically praised Biden, quote, while reform progress was substantial in 2015, it was not enough for many in civil society and at least some reformers in the Rada and the government. Critics focused on the absence of any real changes in the prosecutor's office and in the judiciary and claimed that the president and prime minister were not interested in going after these major sources of corruption. Both institutions were known to facilitate corruption. They pointed to the failure of the government through the prosecutor general to indict any major figures from the Yanukovych administration for corruption. They complained, too, that the prosecutor general, Shokin, was a compromised figure who had served as prosecutor general in the same said Yanukovych administration. And you know who consulted with the Yanukovych administration, Crudy?
Paul Manafort?
Paul Manafort.
Well, so did Rudy Giuliani. Went to prison to talk to Paul Manafort, to help spin the conspiracy theory that he is now pursuing and will probably lead to the impeachment of his client. Isn't it ironic?
It certainly is.
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Going back to the phones and our audience next at 844-967-2789.
His beautiful wife. And isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic.
How does this relate to our discussion of the uses of irony?
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. In the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Go back to where they came from, help those people come back and show us how to do it. That was the full quote.
They didn't come from anywhere. They were here, dude. Are you employed, Chris?
I am.
Do you have an HR department?
Yes, I do. I'm a union machinist.
Oh, do you work with minorities?
I do.
If you walked up to one of your coworkers who was a minority, you told them to go back to where they came from, would HR have a conversation with you about that, do you think?
It depends on the person, really. I mean, some people are...
If somebody complained to HR about what you said, do you think they would have a conversation with you about that? Okay.
Absolutely.
But why? Why would they pull you off of your job to discuss this with you? What do you think their beef would be?
Because they're trying to protect the corporation from lawsuits.
Lawsuit for what?
Discrimination, racism.
So if your coworkers, if you say it to your coworker, it could be described as discrimination or racism. But when the president says it to the world, it's not racist?
No. Yikes.
Give me a ticket for an aeroplane.
The Devil's Advocates, so relevant they have one foot in tomorrow.
Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the phones. We'll get to them shortly at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the news breaking so quickly, so damningly of this president, this one may advance the impeachment narrative. I bring you Raw Stories reversion of the Wall Street Journal report. On Thursday, the Wall Street Journal reported that President Donald Trump recalled Marie Yovanovitch, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, after his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, complained that she wasn't helping him advance his conspiracy theory about former Vice President Joe Biden and his family business dealings in the region. So, the U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine wasn't helping Giuliani with his investigation of Joe Biden. Therefore, Trump said she must go. According to the report, Giuliani reminded the president of complaints percolating amongst Trump supporters that she had displayed an anti-Trump bias in private conversations. In Mr. Giuliani's view, she also had been an obstacle to efforts to push Ukraine to investigate Mr. Biden and his son, Hunter. Trump is currently facing an impeachment inquiry from House Democrats stemming from a whistleblower complaint into his call with the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. I think our audience knows that by now. What they may not have known is that Trump fired the Ukrainian ambassador because she would not collude with Rudy Giuliani to investigate his political opponent, Joe Biden. Well, that's a great reason to fire an ambassador, Dom.
844-967-2789. Again, and just from the last story from the CNN and this letter that Johnson signed that doesn't remember, basically, yes, saying let's do some reforms in the Prosecutor General's office in Ukraine, and then coming out last week and signing a letter with Grassley to say, well, we got to look into that. I mean, obviously these things, they conflict with each other. But if there's nothing conflicting about President Trump's actions as this information continues to come out, we know that's how he plays the game. And now we have what? The private attorney for the president influencing foreign policy decisions as to who is the ambassador to the Ukraine? I mean, apparently for Ron Johnson, he thinks this is just all okay.
Relatively speaking, Dom, that's just a small abuse of power. That's probably more of a misdemeanor than a high crime in the whole scheme of things.
Crazy Dave from Evansville. You're up, my friend. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us today?
Hey, I think it's wonderfully ironic that this article came out today, because I actually started composing this phone call in my head yesterday afternoon after he spent the hour on here. And you said something afterwards, Crudy said something after the interview that during the commercials he's somewhat more open with you about some things. And it really kind of upset me, because obviously he doesn't think that he owes the people of Wisconsin the truth if he, in private conversations, says things to other people, And then we find out today that he's not, we suspected he wasn't completely upfront with you guys either. So there seems to be different levels of honesty with him, and I don't think that that's what Wisconsin deserves in a senator.
Well, Dave, we all have our public face and our private face. And Ron sometimes shows us his private face during the commercial breaks. And, we've had conversations, and quite frankly, those are off the record. We talk about when the mics are on, that counts. When they're off, that does not count. You can tell us what you want to tell us. And I would say Ron has been quite candid during the commercial breaks. I would say the broad feeling I had is that he doesn't love Trump as much as he publicly claims he might like the president. I don't think he's really a big fan, but he's still out there supporting him. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, 844-967-2789.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
It's all a big lie. It's a big con game.
Nobody knows the game better than I do.
My congressman, our good friend Mark Pocan, if Donald Trump's under attack, Mark, are you worried about his inspired followers rising up and voting him to re-elect?
I am trying to approach this with blinders on when it comes to the political side of it. If he has violated the Constitution, it is our obligation to do an impeachment. And I think from what I've read, I feel that. I think when we get some witnesses in, we'll really have full clarity on that. But if it was just political reasons, some people say, well, then you're going to get, Mike Pence, is that good? And you can second guess every decision we ever make in politics if it's just about politics. In this case, I think that you rise to the Constitution. And if he has violated the Constitution, which I believe he has, there's obstruction on multiple counts, then we have no choice but to do our constitutional job and go after that.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates interviews at DomandCroot.com. Click on the podcast tab and select interviews. That's DomandCroot.com.
You are listening to WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee. Always streaming at newstalk1510am.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
More power, more fight, the most heart. Gingras, Thompson & Walks is more than a law firm. We're family. We believe in doing our best to help people in need and right the wrong that's occurred. For more than 35 years, we've helped thousands of clients across the state of Wisconsin get the justice they deserve. Our proven track record of success isn't based solely on our knowledge of the judicial system. Rather, we make it our priority to get to know our clients and their cases so we can best represent them. Gingras, Thompson & Walks. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
Five Nines, your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Hey guys, I'm Maggie Dawn, your lady lawyer, legal eagle, and sensei of economics. Tune into my show, Dawn of the Resistance, live Thursdays and Fridays from 6 to 7 on WRRD 1510 AM. Always streaming live at newstalk1510am.com.
For WRRD and WTTN, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul and 23 other attorneys general sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Agriculture last week urging them not to implement new rules for food stamps that could drop 40,000 Wisconsinites from the program. Other Wisconsin Democrats, including Governor Tony Evers and Senator Tammy Baldwin, are also fighting the proposal. The proposed rule would bar people in other programs from automatically qualifying for food stamps. Instead, reviews of their income and assets would be conducted to make sure they fall within the guidelines. Food stamp recipients cannot have liquid assets worth more than $2,250. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison: tonight mostly cloudy, lows in the mid-40s. Tomorrow mostly sunny with highs in the mid-50s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN.
Nickelback's your favorite band. I apologize to the gentleman.
Why would you criticize one of the greatest bands of the 90s?
Wow.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. This one not going out to Congressman Mark Pocan, not a big fan of Nickelback, but this one going out for all the MAGA-loving Trumpsters in the world, Dom. This relates, I swear, to a headline of the day. I found it at the Daily Beast. Donald Trump fans are fuming at the much derided Canadian band Nickelback after Twitter took down a Trump tweet featuring one of the band's songs over a copyright violation.
How dare they?
Trump posted the music video for Nickelback's 2005 hit Photograph on Twitter on Wednesday afternoon. The video was edited to show Nickelback frontman Chad Kroeger holding up a picture of Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden golfing with members of the board of a Ukrainian energy company at the center of Trump's attempts to pressure Ukraine into investigating the Bidens. Look at this photograph! All caps, exclamation point. Trump's tweet read. But Trump supporters delight at the president's use of Nickelback, which has long been an internet punchline because of the perception that its songs are terrible. Just a perception, though, Dom. Soon turned to anger at the Canadian band after Twitter took down Trump's video for a copyright violation. Here are a few examples, Dom. Quote, "Make American hate Nickelback again," tweeted Matt Bazell, the head of the conservative training nonprofit American Majority. Again, the quote, "Nickelback was thrilled that they were trending on Twitter, so they complained to make sure they could unite the nation against them." Well, that seems counterintuitive. I read on. Christy Swanson, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie star, who's refashioned herself as a pro-Trump celebrity, called the takedown a bunch of bull. Swanson claimed that she bought Photograph on iTunes because of Trump's tweet, but now plan to get a refund.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think Trump could pay licensing fees, right? I mean, he could pay Nickelback for the use of that video, right?
Well, Dominic, but Kroeger and the rest of Nickelback weren't even behind the copyright takedown. Right. We've had this problem once or twice. Instead, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act complaint was filed by Warner Music Group, which appears to own the rights to Photograph. They better not have turned off our Facebook live stream for playing it, Dom. Per our copyright policy, we respond to valid copyright complaints sent to us by a copyright owner or their authorized representatives. Nickelback and Warner Music Group didn't respond to requests for comments, but Nickelback's blamelessness didn't stem the growing MAGA anger at the band. On Twitter, rank-and-file Trump supporters urged one another to re-upload the video, with one claiming Nickelback blew a chance to gain a new fan base. Well, that seems unlikely as well, Dom.
Now, Crudy, I'm going to throw this out here. I want you to just walk with me for a minute. Warner Music Group is owned by a company called Access Industries. Access Industries is a conglomerate controlled by Russian-born billionaire
Lynn Blavatnik.
Yeah.
A Scott Walker donor, Lynn Blavatnik. Yeah. Buddy, you act like I wouldn't even know that was coming. I knew exactly where you were going.
Well done, man. You got a great memory.
Yes, I do.
844-967-2789. Maybe a little internal fighting there. Listen, I mean, if Trump paid licensing fees, he could use the music and videos.
Like Tiny Dancer?
I'm just saying. All you Trumpsters that get all upset about it, you know that, right? And then, as Crudy mentioned, the article mentioned, it's Warner Music Group and the Russians. You know, your friends, your frenemies, the Russians. 844-967-2789. Pizza Box Mike. Happy Thursday, man. What do you got for us?
Cottonmouth Johnson. You know, wasn't it about a week or so ago that he said the world would be much better off not have known any of the truth about what Trump's doing? But he's willing to go to an adversary to dig up probably lies and propaganda against somebody from a country that he doesn't trust as far as he can throw it.
How does that make any sense? Right, Mike, right.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here, okay, and say that Ron Johnson probably isn't going to even run for Senate by the time we get to this, because he's done in Wisconsin. I mean, I've never seen so many people appreciate the posts that I put up about Ron Johnson. The whole state's watching him. And we have the perfect bumper sticker for when he runs again. No more Ron Johnson. Right? Okay. But what gets me about all this, you know, No, I don't like, what all these people do going out making millions and billions of dollars. It certainly
off
is
their
unethical.
contacts and their family connections and their political connections.
It's immoral. Yeah, it's totally immoral. It's privilege. It's above and beyond what anybody needs in this world. But that happens all the time. I mean, are we going to investigate everybody that's making that kind of money? Because I hope we do. I mean, there's our reparations.
I'd like to be under that sort of scrutiny, Michael.
Right. I mean, listen, it's ridiculous. And like I said, this is the problem with our economy. He's just exposing some of the things that, they all have been taking advantage of us on all this stuff. All these CEOs and all these rich people. It's worldwide. And we're going to kick their ass this year.
Well, you're right, Mike. It is worldwide, man. And that's really what it comes down to. That's why guys like Trump can't seem to get the grasp that, he has to live under the same laws we do. He is not an oligarch. He is not a strong man. This is the United States of America. And although we don't always live up to our ideals and our standards, it's up to the people to make sure that we try, because we're not being led, we're being fed.
Well, hey, listen, the people in the high society since the Roaring '20s, they've been above the law. They're being exposed at this point. Okay, they're being really arrogant about it, and I think people are starting to catch on. They didn't make their money the good old-fashioned way, working and raising a family. They stole it.
Thank you for your call, Michael. Have a great day, buddy. 844-967-2789. Next up, Wisco Paul. Welcome back, bud.
Thanks for taking my call, Devils. Lord knows I wish they sold stock in New Glarus Brewery because I'm drinking enough of it. I'd certainly buy some stock in a place if I could. Hey, I'm almost ready to go south of the border. Like you said yesterday, I'm getting there. Won't be much longer. I got a quick question. Is Joe Biden, I should say, is he pushing back enough against Trump the way he's belittling his family? At least I would be. Thanks for taking my call.
Appreciate the call, Paul. I've got perhaps a response from the former vice president, according to CNN. Biden to Trump, "You're not going to destroy me." This attributed to the former vice president in Reno today. Joe Biden addressed President Donald Trump directly Wednesday, I guess that was yesterday, saying, "You're not going to destroy me, and you're not going to destroy my family," in his strongest remarks on the Ukraine controversy to date. "I'm not going anywhere," Biden, who is running to take on Trump in the 2020 election, said before a crowd of voters in Reno, Nevada. Hours earlier, Trump's fury was evident as he rallied against Democrats in the media over the impeachment inquiry launched by House Democrats to investigate claims he laid out in a whistleblower complaint that Trump attempted to enlist the help of the Ukrainian president to investigate Biden and his son Hunter. Biden also slammed Trump for his handling of the Ukraine controversy through Twitter and slammed the president for threatening the anonymous whistleblower, again, a quote attributed to Joe Biden. Virtually every day, he launches a barrage of tweets attacking, insulting, threatening anyone who doesn't bathe in his praise. He's even gone so far as to threaten the whistleblower. Now fearful about his election, he's becoming more unhinged, the former vice president continued. Biden's comments Wednesday, which laid out in a nearly prosecutorial manner, present the strongest case yet that the president he has made in light of the impeachment inquiry. Again, a quote from Biden. "He is repeatedly smearing me and my family. His party, fans out to carry the smear, are blanketing the airwaves paid for by special interests so well served by his presidency." Biden claimed the president has acted out against him because he is afraid that he will beat him in the polls. He did it because, like every bully in history, he's afraid. He's afraid of just how badly he may be beaten in November. Well, that wouldn't be a pretty picture at all, would it, Dom?
Not a good
See
picture.
what I did there?
I see that.
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Enjoying a little Nickelback as we go to break. Now, do you think Sony Music's going to shut us down for playing this song out?
Hurry up. Go to break.
Got to get to break. Come back with the last of your phone calls for the day. You better start dialing 844-967-2789. Devil's Advocates. minus Nickelback on the other side.
Yeah, I will just wrap by saying I appreciate that very brave admission of your fandom for Nickelback. That's very brave, and I do recognize that.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement security, the values of the middle class. You can be part of that experience. Let Teamsters 200 be your partner. Your voice matters. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
We the people, the hardworking 99% of men and women, only have a voice when we join together as one and amplify our message. Now is the time for all Wisconsinites to join We the People and raise our voices. Do you feel like you are wasting your money funding unaccountable consultants, unresponsive candidates, and their campaigns? Help us do something that really matters. Please join We the People. Give what you can so we can support progressive radio stations like this one, using the public airwaves to educate Wisconsin about what we the people want for our state and remind Wisconsin's politicians that they work for us. Your donations to We the People at p4ppc.org, a registered, compliant IRS 501c3, will always be tax deductible, will always remain anonymous, and We the People pledge to spend 100% of donations educating Wisconsin on the issues our donors want discussed, giving individuals a voice in the collective message of We the People. Please give today at p4ppc.org. That's p4ppc.org. We the people need you.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and my family owns Madison Liquidators. We've officially moved into our new space off Pleasant View Road in Middleton, and we're excited to announce that Madison Liquidators is now Dane County's premier dealer for Groupe Lacoste. In addition to their unbeatable 25-year warranty, Groupe Lacoste has 10 lines to choose from, ranging from traditional to ultra-modern, all available in 18 different finishes. Give me a call and let's make a plan for your space, or go online to madisonliquidators.com and shop our complete inventory of used office furniture.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. So if you got something to say, please join us right now at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, this song has some meaning as well, right? This is an ode to Bernie Sanders.
Get well, Bernie.
Elizabeth Warren sent snacks, a dinner, over to Bernie's aides yesterday.
Burning Heart.
It was a nice touch.
I think this was on Rocky 4. Two worlds collide.
Oh, yeah. Rival Nations.
Rival Nations.
Survivor. Also the same guy who did Real Men of Genius.
See, very, very appropriate on many levels. Crudy, we had the sound. Let's play it briefly. This one goes out to you, Wisco Paul. Joe Biden, I guess, pushing back. Cut 20, Brian.
Now, let me make something clear to Mr. Trump and his hatchet men and the special interests funding his attacks against me. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going to destroy me, and you're not going to destroy my family. I don't care how much money you spend, Mr. President, or how dirty the attacks get.
Now, Crudy, you've mentioned the Mercers here. Is it your understanding that they're financing Rudy Giuliani? How do they roll into this whole thing?
Well, that was the article we read yesterday, that Rebecca Mercer was in fact the one that inspired this investigation in the Ukraine and apparently put the funding behind Rudy Giuliani, who's acting apparently as a emissary of the State Department / attorney for the president in a pro bono fashion because he's going through a messy divorce and doesn't want to have to pay his wife's alimony. So he's working for free. But Rebecca Mercer apparently is funding, the international travel, et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha.
As we read about yesterday, if you'll recall, that was in the big show, man.
I know. There's so many things happening going by so fast.
You and Ron Johnson, things just slip your minds.
844-967-2789. That number does not slip my mind. You can use it if you want to talk to us right now, like Nick from Madison. Happy Friday Eve, Nick. What do you got for us today?
Hey, happy Friday Eve to you as well. I guess, first of all, nothing but good wishes to Bernie. I hope he recovers well and everything. Absolutely. Life is bigger than politics.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say is that, guys, I know you want Trump to be impeached. I know you want him to be removed from office, which is fine. I didn't vote for him. But what I'm thinking is that I've had two cats, okay? One, when he meowed, I knew something is wrong. The other one, when he meows, it's just background noise. You're kind of being background noise in all this.
But you're listening.
And you have been since.
First and foremost, you're listening to our quote-unquote background noise, and also I'd like to make fun of you for being a cat person.
Oh, come on. Cats are fine. Nick, these are
He's a cat lady, Dom.
These are breaking issues, Nick. Let's talk about the specific one today, this background noise that a lot of the news outlets are covering today, Nick, because the president, while under investigation for allegedly asking a foreign president to look into his political rival, literally came out, reinforced it for Ukraine, and also went further and asked China to get involved as well. Now, that being said, Nick, my opinion is that if there's any sort of illegalities being done, it's the Justice Department, it's our justice system that should be doing the investigation. If there's any reach out to other international legal organizations, that should be done through our justice system and our Justice Department, be it as corrupt as it is with Barr. Anyway, are you okay with that, Nick? Do you think that is appropriate, like Ron Johnson, that Trump would get up and literally ask China to do that again? This is the third time, if you believe. Hey, Russia, if you're listening, check out the emails.
That's something a little worse than background noise, Nick.
That's background noise? Okay, so that's not appropriate. Is it impeachable?
My point is, it's been 3 years.
I'm just asking you for the one today, man. We can go back on the Mueller report. We can go back on grab him by the what. We can go back. Well, there's lots of things we can talk about. The one today, the Trump du jour today is what I just laid out for you.
This is the one thing. This is it. This is what's going to do it.
Ukraine. This abuse of power will get the president impeached, Nick. I feel pretty confident.
It's another one, Nick. It's the one that seemingly is getting traction. I read the Mueller report, Nick. There's lots of things in there as well. But, hell, I'll take what we can get because the guy is a corrupt human being, Nick. And I don't want corrupt human beings. The president of the United States, he's a dangerous man, Nick. What does Trump do that you agree with? Anything?
No.
Okay, so why the criticism of trying to remove a man who, in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, is very obviously compromised and corrupt to the nth degree?
Because it's overkill is what I'm saying. Like I gave the example of my cats, the one that just meows all the time, I just ignore it. I think a lot of people are going to ignore all the background noise.
Okay, so Nick's example, and I'm done with the cat talk. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm not a big cat guy. But you're saying effectively the Democrats cry wolf. And up until now, maybe you had a point, Nick. But last Monday, Nancy Pelosi called for a formal impeachment inquiry. And that gets a little beyond background noise. And then very quickly, we saw opinion polling turning against the president of the United States. The polls are turning against him. And above and beyond that, we have seen a majority of the House Democrats, in fact, an impeachable vote majority, come out and say that they indeed will vote when the House votes to compel a Senate trial. The votes are already there, Nick. So impeachment is going forward. The Democrats have the votes in the House. And despite the protestations by guys like Ron Johnson, there have to be Republican senators of conscience left in this country that are reacting as if the president, when he asked a foreign country on the White House lawn for aid and abetting and investigation of his political rival, They clearly understand that this is an abuse of power and not his first, even in short succession. And just because he did it publicly, Nick, on the television cameras, as Hillary Clinton said today, that doesn't mean it's not impeachable.
Thank you for the call, Nick. Just one more point here, I guess, to what you're saying, Crudy.
Meow.
Come on, I got a cat. I love cats. Americans by a 45 to 38% plurality now support a vote by the House of Representatives to impeach Donald Trump, a USA Today Ipsos poll finds as allegations continue to swirl. By a similar margin, Nick, 44 to 35%, those surveyed say the Senate, which would then be charged with holding a trial of the president, should convict Trump and remove him from office. A survey of 1,006 adults taken Tuesday and Wednesday. Now Nick, I would consider, if I just may, I would consider myself an early innovator in this, Nick. Certainly it took a lot of people to come along. They're starting to, but I see it. I know you see it, and I disagree that it's background noise. I mean, what are we doing otherwise? What's the point of engaging in these conversations and self-governance if we're just going to turn our back because, oh my God, it's just too much Trump corruption. I can't take it anymore.
You know, this has all moved very rapidly. This is not crying wolf. This has been a week and a half since Nancy Pelosi made her public statement about 4 o'clock Central Time a week ago on Monday. We have seen the president losing his frickin' mind in public, calling for foreign countries to interfere in our elections, to collude against his rival. I mean, Nick, the guy is losing his mind. He is done governing as if he ever did. But the only governance going on right now is for the benefit of Donald Trump and his efforts to seek dirt on his political opponent. And somehow he feels like, well, if he can just turn up some dirt on Joe Biden, somehow that vindicates the fact that he colluded with a foreign power for the benefit of his last elected election. You know, he's trying to revise history. The winners get to revise history. That's all he's doing, Nick, but it's way more than background noise. This is a turning point in history, Nick. This isn't your freaking cat meowing because you won't clean out the litter box.
844-967-2789. Annie from Watertown. You're next. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us today?
Yeah, and you know, why isn't the background noise applied to all that stuff like the right-wing radio, Fox News, Benghazi, how's that for one? You know, I mean, that stuff that they do over and over this nonsensically. How come that's not background noise? Anyway, just when I got done recovering with my head jerking around and hitting myself in the head listening to Ron Johnson yesterday.
Oh, no.
You bring up his buddy, Mr. Mercer, and his jars of urine and all that. Now I got to think about that. But
hey, we didn't bring up the jars of urine. That's of your creation, Andy.
Well, that's the Mercer guy. I don't know. No, this criticism, I thought it was only like lazy Democrats who, you know, are something negative that would put people down for earning all kinds of money, or, you know, Donald Trump bragging about avoiding taxes and making all kinds of money, and, you know, this is the right thing to do, you know, to make exorbitant amounts of money. Now all of a sudden they're going like, oh, look at him, he's making too much money.
Well, and the Trump kids are influence peddling all around the world. The daughter is working in the White House despite no tangible qualifications whatsoever. And apparently Jared Kushner, the son-in-law in chief, he's going to head up the new Trump impeachment war room. Or so it's being reported. Also,
really? They're actually going to get a war room thrown together? It's about time.
They're just going to put it on Jared's portfolio. Real quick, I mentioned the Rebecca Mercer. Again, that was at Bloomberg. They broke that story yesterday. Rebecca Mercer had this plan to fund this dirt-seeking investigation. And the problem is Rudy and Trump hijacked the efforts of Rebecca Mercer, perhaps to their own, you know, impeachment.
Peril.
Or indictment in the case of Rudy. Or, you know, maybe it's just the cat meowing. Thank you to our fine guest. He's Batman. Matt Rothschild, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Stick around. Dawn of the Resistance with attorney Maggie Dawn is next. More Devil's Advocates, well, on Friday.
My cat's breath smells like cat food.
That was a hoax, right?
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on WRRD 1510 AM. Weekdays, hear the Earl Ingram Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 9 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. And at 6, it's Jocasta Zamaripa, Busted Pencils, Brandy Grayson, and Maggie Dawn. Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at newstalk1510am.com.
In a union, there is strength. Wisconsin has had a long history with the organized labor movement in America, fighting for stronger wages, affordable health care, and retirement